WrestleMania 38 Night 2 is in the books, and y'all tell me, am I stepping out of line? Am I saying it too quickly if I just come right out and say that Night 1 was way better than Night 2? Do I need to wait for y'all's approval on that, or can I pretty much assume you guys feel the same way? I want your grades on the show right away. Let's do number grades. Give me a grade on the show 1 through 10, or give me a score, whatever you would give this show. I think last night's show was really good between Bianca's victory, a solid match between Ronda and Charlotte, and of course the Austin main event and Cody's return. Night 1 had a whole lot of excitement, a whole lot of surprises, and tonight was good in a lot of ways. The Dallas crowd really was the MVP here. They were so into a lot of these matches when they shouldn't have been, and they really came out for the McAfee and Austin Theory match. They were very vocal for that, and I think they in large part saved the show. And there's a couple of things, the crowd, I think Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville also kind of saved the show from not being too horrible. But we're going to get into everything piece by piece here as we go. But my initial thoughts on the main event was that it was a bit underwhelming. I got to admit, I went to bat for this main event time and time again. I've been defending the dog shit out of Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar because I think they're both at their highest point and their peak of careers and their peak of overness in terms of my interest in them and how entertaining I find their characters to be and how much stronger they are, and have gotten over the years, especially Roman. And I didn't really care how many times they faced each other. Their first encounter way back in 2015 was lame. Remember the little belt tug of war, how dumb that was? I don't care how many times they faced. I'm way more interested this time than I was their first few times they ever came across each other. But it seems like every time Brock Lesnar loses, it's always underwhelming. It's never as big as when he wins, like when he beat The Undertaker and ended the streak, when he beat John Cena at SummerSlam 2014, when he beat Roman in the main event of WrestleMania 34. These were like big time victories that the crowd was like, holy shit. This finish kind of came quick, kind of similar to how Brock got beat that one time before by Roman. I think that was in the Fatal 4-Way. The way he ate a quick spear and like that chair was over his face or something, really kind of fast the way they did it. I was hoping to have a little bit more drama in the main event. I was hoping to have some blood in this thing, and I was hoping that maybe Roman would have a little bit more of a dominant or statement win on Brock. Not squash him by no means, but get to the point where Brock is fighting. He's kicked out of a few spears and Superman punches, and he's on wobbly legs, and then finally Roman just measures him and nails him with the final whatever, spear, Superman punch, whatever he wants, and then pins him with authority and confidence and gets up and stands over his body. I kind of wanted that because the outcome, despite the fact that the match was underwhelming, the outcome I'm happy with. I think Roman needed to win this for his own legacy and for what WWE wants to make him into. And now this guy's going into 2+ years, going on 3 years now, almost, or wait, how many? 2 years of holding the championship. And that's incredible. Michael Cole ran down the list of names. We talked about this just last night of guys who have held the title longer than Roman, and it's like Backlund and Bruno and Hogan and guys like that. And for him to even come close to matching one of these runs is pretty incredible in 2022. And as I pitched last night, in a world of wrestling that has more championship belts than we can even handle, is it really that big of a deal if one of them has like a 3-year run? Why does everybody get so angry about that? Why is everybody so resistant to that? Back in the day, you'd have people holding the belt for 8 years, 5 years, 7 years, 4 years. This was a regular thing, and I know it's a different time. Business is much different and moves much faster now, but considering how much variety you have, and you have up until tonight, apparently they've unified these titles, but up until tonight you had 2 of these things. So I don't really see the harm in having one guy have a dominant run, especially what it can do to help make the guy and the championship when it's all said and done. So my big question is now, hopefully we'll get this answered tomorrow, no matter what WWE says on television, no matter how many times they hammer into our heads. This is a winner-take-all championship unification match. You can championship unify my dick, because I don't believe anything you say until you bring out a new world championship presented to Roman, and there's now one title in the company. How's that going to work? With a brand extension, with Fox and USA, obviously with all the money they're paying out, are going to want the champion on their show every week. You're going to have to go back to the old days when that was pretty much the case. The champion did appear on both shows for the most part. So if you want to go back to that, great. If you want to make the champion a floating champion like you attempted to do in 2002 that only lasted a few months, maybe do that. But I'm suspicious of this whole thing. I think Roman is going to do something like I've already talked about and pitched, maybe on Raw tomorrow. It's another question for you guys before I say hello to everybody in the chat. Who opens Raw tomorrow, Roman or Cody? Roman or Cody? Give me your prediction. So if I know WWE the way I think I do, and then the way I think we do, suspicious of this one. Just want to make sure I can be heard. I feel like they would do something like have Roman come out tomorrow night with the championships. You got to keep in mind that he's been undefeated for a long time now. He's not been pinned or submitted since December of 2019 by Baron Corbin, no less, which is just fucking hysterical. And he's been so dominant, beating everybody they have there, doesn't really have any true challengers left. I can see him doing something like, I don't need this belt. I don't need 2 of these. I've smashed everybody. What's the point of having 2? This is the belt I'm choosing, and maybe he just says, I'm going to be the world champion. Now you can have this one back, have a tournament for it. Maybe Cody wins it or something. I don't know. Or maybe he comes out and he's so confident that he just challenges the next person who comes to the ring, and that turns out to be Cody. Cody wins the title and then drops the title to Seth Rollins and gives him that win back. There's a lot of different things you can do, but I would assume that if WWE is going to split these titles back up, it will be a type of deal where Roman will just be like, I've beaten everybody, I just forfeit it. And I think that's lame, especially when you've advertised this match as a unification and then you just ununify it the very next night. So I forgot who said it. It was either commentary or Michael Cole. I forgot who mentioned this. But there was some mention on TV in the last couple of weeks of a new unified world championship belt. So if they unveil one tomorrow, that's great. But wouldn't you consider that to be pretty surprising? Holy shit, you're going to unify your titles now. Okay, but what does that mean for Raw and SmackDown? What does that mean for the future of the brand split? It's pretty much dead anyway, but they've never really officially killed it. So would this be the official killing? Do they have to get permission from Fox and USA? Imagine that. Imagine them having to get permission from a bunch of people who don't know dick about wrestling. Is it okay if we unify our titles? God, I hope they don't have to do that. But, is that something they had to discuss with the network? Say we're going to unify the titles and the brand split, and we're just going to be one company again, just like AEW. We don't need 2 brands of WWE. We don't need 3 brands of WWE. It can just be WWE and NXT, and then you have AEW. That's all I need as a fan. So I'm curious what we're going to see tomorrow. What do you guys think? Unification or not? What happened? And what's the future going to be? There's a lot of things they could do. Hopefully, a lot of us were hoping tonight that we would see The Rock come out. A lot of people wanted to see The Rock come out and challenge Roman for next year at WrestleMania. I did question the possibility of that. I'm like, I don't know if they want to book something that far in advance, I mean, it worked out with Cena and Rock the first time, but to do that, I almost feel like WWE would not take the rest of the year seriously with Roman because they're just trying to get to WrestleMania next year. So they'll just, phone in everything else that he does, which could hurt his title run. So I was fine with The Rock not coming out tonight, unless he was just there for a nostalgia type of deal. His mom was in the front row like she always is. She's always there. So I didn't freak out too much when I saw her because she was probably there because of Roman, and everybody else, all the Samoans were there. They're always at WrestleMania. So I was hoping that we might see The Rock tonight, but we didn't. Roman just got a clean spear and pin over Brock Lesnar. Was a nut shot, pretty big low blow after a ref bump that Roman used to help beat Roman. Roman kicked out of, several Superman punches and a couple of spears as well. Or I'm sorry, Brock did. Roman kicked out of an F5, at least one. But in the end, it was kind of underwhelming because it hit you out of nowhere. I thought the finish would be more dramatic than that. It seemed like a lot of people thought the same thing. Like it was, whoa, okay, that kind of came out of nowhere. But I'm okay with it. I wish it would have been more dramatic. I wish the win would have felt more like a statement win for Roman. I wish Brock would have done a little bit more to sell for him and really sell the beatdown. Maybe recreate. I really like what they did in Madison Square Garden at that house show. If you could have somehow incorporated that into the finish here and have Roman celebrating with both titles over a bloody Brock, that would have made much more of a statement win and really would have made him look unbeatable. And this still does amazing things for Roman, but it just didn't make him quite as dominant as I wanted it to. That's really my only complaint. But in terms of Roman's legacy and what he needed to do, his character needed to slay Brock. It needed to happen. So I'm perfectly fine with that. Roman is now a double champion, and we'll see what winds up happening down the road, who he challenges next, what's the future of the championship. Does he have any real contenders? I made the point last night that I think Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens should both be champions within the next year, so it'll be interesting to see how that works out. Cody is there now, too. You got to take that into consideration. So, yeah, overall, I'm going to definitely give the nod to night one. Much better show, much more exciting show. And even though tonight had its moments, overall, I feel like it was a little bit underwhelming. So I'm going to go over here to the chat now, say hi to you guys, see what you have to see what you have to say, read some of your grades on the show, knock out these super chats, and then we will start running into the results match by match. I got to say, the one that surprised me the most, that was the most entertaining to me, was Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville. They went way beyond the Call of Duty there. They had the big mouse traps and the jackass props, the mechanical legs. Somebody tweeted that it was Mad Dog Vachon's leg. That was classic. They had Mark Henry and Mae Young's hand, who grew up to become a jackass prop and slap the shit out of Sami Zayn. Wee Man came out from under the ring. I want to check on Wee Man. He ate a haluva kick from Sami Zayn that was just a legit kick. I think Wee Man was like, kick me in the face for real. Just smashed his face all in. Had to have broken his nose easily. This match was stiff. The bowling ball shot that Zayn took to the nuts, Knoxville launched it like he was throwing, like he's a professional bowler rolling for his 300 game right in the balls of Sami Zayn. It was rough, man. There was taser guns, big mouse traps, or a table full of mouse traps, a giant mouse trap, everything. Party boy out there putting the thang on Sami Zayn, as Pat McAfee said. It was crazy, man, and it was a lot of fun. So that was a surprising hit. I don't believe any company is above silly wrestling. There's always a place for silly wrestling. So some guys wrestle with their hands in their pockets, and other guys use a mechanical leg to smash someone's balls. Shut the fuck up and enjoy it. One company is not better than the other when it comes to stuff like that. Wrestling is silly, and there's silly aspects to it. That's never going away, and nor do I want it to. So that was real fun. I think the women's tag, I didn't pay much attention to it because I was off getting a snack and stuff, but the crowd seemed into it on that one. AJ and Edge. That was a classic, but man, scary moment for Edge, or AJ. He came out to the ring with a bloody face. The assumption was that he caught some pyro in the face. I thought one of the Sparks tagged him because he just had his regular like AJ pyro, and as he's walking to the ring, he's bleeding. But luckily, it turns out that he just whacked his face on the set on the big WrestleMania sign when he was coming through the entrance. Just wasn't looking where he was going and smacked himself good and opened himself up, but shook it right off and was able to go through the match. I'm just really glad that's what it was, and it wasn't a pyro accident, because those have been adding up. We've had a few of those over the years, even including fans and the Undertaker and whatnot. So if they would have had an accident like that here, I would have advised cutting back on that. But it was just AJ's clumsiness. That sign is curved. It's not flat. New Day match was fucking underwhelming as hell. Undertaker came out for a final salute, and Stone Cold was back. And he was in there having fun with Pat McAfee and Vince McMahon. And tonight we saw the absolute worst stunner cell in the history of stunner cells, but it was awesome. It was so heartwarming. I wasn't even mad. I think it's incredible that Vince McMahon somehow bookended his stunner-taking career with the worst stunner cell of all time, and then ended it with an even worse stunner cell. So you never thought he could top that ridiculous flopping like a fish shit he did 25 years ago in 1997, but he did. The way him and Austin were struggling, and just as soon as Austin hit it, he was laughing his ass off. That's one of those situations where I would never be angry about it. I wouldn't expect anything else from a stumbling, bumbling Vince McMahon, who is so fucking uncoordinated, even when he was young. Now he's, 75, 76 years old in there, still looking jacked, but my God, trying to do anything athletic or physical. Come on, Vince. He actually did wrestle against Pat McAfee in a match, just like Austin did last night. Both these guys had impromptu matches, and watching Austin come out there and hit Vince with the stunner. When I say Austin, I mean Stone Cold. Stone Cold came out in this match, not Austin Theory. Man, between Adam Cole and Adam Page and Gable Steveson and Chad Gable and Austin Theory and Steve Austin, I'm totally lost. I don't know about you. But when he hit Vince with that and the way they stumbled around, it was great. It's one of those things you just have to appreciate it for what it was. And for those of us who have lived through each and every single one of Vince McMahon's stunners and watched them with our own eyes, I can tell you that's something that is just what makes wrestling great. Sometimes you have happy accidents. Sometimes a botch can be so fucking horrible, but in the end, it makes it better than it was if Vince would have sold it regular, because Vince's regular stunner cell is shit. So if he would have sold it regular, it would have just been like, oh, another shitty Vince stunner cell. At least they made a memorable moment here. And I pitch putting the Vince McMahon Stone Cold Stunner cell at WrestleMania 38 in the new WWE signature intro. They need to make that the opening that we see between or before every Raw, every SmackDown, and every pay-per-view. It was that good. So that also helped. That ridiculous cell helped the show for me. So did Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville, and so did Stone Cold Steve Austin. And the crowd was kind of the sixth man tonight. They were the MVPs, and they really were hot for a lot of stuff, and they could have been dead. I don't remember them being this hot for WrestleMania 32. So I think the crowd had a good time, and even though the show wasn't quite night one, it wasn't too horrible either. But let's get into that now. Let me go up to the chat, say hello to everybody. We got a pretty decent audience in here, so do me a favor, please smash that thumbs up button if you don't mind. And if you are not a subscriber, please become one, because we're here every Monday night, every Wednesday night, every weekend, every Sunday for classic pay-per-view reviews or current pay-per-view reviews. Or I'm sorry, classic pay-per-view watch-alongs. We're here a lot is my point. Subscribe. I promise you'll like it here. Before we get into the results, let me cruise over here to the chat, read some of your grades for WrestleMania. Also see if there's any super chats. Unfortunately, with an audience like this, I'm not going to be able to shout out everybody, but thank you to everyone who is here, especially our regulars, our tokens, our regular people here every single night for these chats. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate all my monkey wrenches. Appreciate Dave and Zane and Ronnie, all y'all. Thank you for being here as always. Thomas Aridia, thank you for the $5. Night one, a lot better than tonight. I'm filled with indifference for Reigns and Lesnar. I've seen this match 8 effing times now, and it's nothing new. That's been the opinion of a lot of people. And I said, even though I defended this match and I didn't care that they've wrestled this many times because it's so much different now, I also said that I don't want to see it anymore. Like, tonight should be it. That's why Roman winning in the end was really the right call. I think that's the right direction to go in. I just wish the match and the finish would have been a little bit more dramatic than it was. It did fall and feel a little flat to me. It sounds like it did to a lot of you guys as well. But in the end, Roman winning was what I wanted. Adam O, good to see you. Welcome back. Appreciate 2 more from you. Just glad Vince didn't tear his quads like in 05. Yeah, Vince doing anything physical scares me shitless. And when he started pulling off his thing, because we did hear about the rumors of Pat McAfee and Vince McMahon actually having a match. Same with Austin. And then those rumors kind of fizzled, and then they made both of these matches impromptu. And Vince was clotheslining McAfee. McAfee was trying to sell for him. It looked like shit. But Vince just being in there, not getting injured, to me was a good thing. And despite his age, he's still just ripped. The motherfucker is a freak of nature. He's gonna live to be 130 years old. You know that? He is. It's crazy how good he looks for his age. I hope I look that good. 6.5. Here's some grades. 6.5, 7.5, 7, 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10. I'm kind of in the 7 department. I agree. I don't know. I certainly ain't giving it an 8. 7 is as high. 7 is about as high as I'll go. 7.5 if you get me drunk and put a paper bag over WrestleMania's head. I'll give it a 7.5. But otherwise, I'm going 7. And I agree with those of you who have the same grade. Not as good as last night. Last night was so much more fun. And I think the matches were out of balance. I almost think like you should have moved the Seth Cody match to tonight, don't you? Imagine that, because the last night would have still pretty been stacked without that. Bianca's win and Stone Cold, I think, would have made up for it. You put Cody over here, it would have balanced out a little bit, and then you would have had a much more memorable moment in the middle of the show before you got to what we considered to be an underwhelming main event. And we never did get any surprise at the end, no Rock, nothing like that. So the fact that they didn't give us any of that, I think they should have balanced it out a little more. And what a disappointment. The New Day and match was with Sheamus and Ridge Holland. My God, not only did they get bumped last night for time constraints, they put them on the main show tonight, and New Day just jobbed to the guy that injured Big E. My God, that rubbed me the wrong way completely. Triple H opening the show, though, was very fun, and we'll talk about that in a minute. That was kind of a feel-good moment. But yeah, I'm kind of in agreement with most of you. I'm somewhere in that 6 to 7 range for me in terms of tonight, where last night I'd give the show probably an 8.5. Good to see everybody else in here. A couple more super chats knock out real quick. George Morris, appreciate the 5. Hey, Greg, how are you doing? WrestleMania 38, 0 out of 10. Both nights I laughed at your Wings video that you made. You picked Wings, why not Small Wonder? Because I didn't really watch Small Wonder. I was actually a big Wings fan. I watched it a lot because I was always glued to the USA Network because it played WWE. And I had a VCR back in the day, and I'd always have shit in, and Wings would be on and it would get recorded by accident on tapes, and I started watching it and liking it, and then I started watching it all the time, and now it's just nostalgia for me. So I almost switched the entire channel to a Wings tribute just the other day on April 1st. Max Pokebro, welcome back, and appreciate 5 from you as well. Nights like these are why even though I genuinely understand the criticisms for WWE, I just can't fully get behind them. When tried, they can't do it. So yeah, it's an underwhelming viewpoint from you for WrestleMania. I still think WWE is capable of having good nights. You don't have to go back any further than 24 hours ago to see a pretty good one on their watch. They do sometimes tend to be their own worst enemy. Sometimes when you have a card, even like tonight on night 2, that I think was on paper poised to be just fine. It was just maybe the way everything was executed. There were some problems, but I think Roman and Brock could have been more epic than it was for sure. I thought the opening match with the triple threat tag was fun and a good way to open up, especially with RK Bro and or with Randy Orton and Riddle, and then bringing in Stevenson to suplex around Gable was fun. Lashley, to me, got a victory in a WrestleMania match and win that he deserved. I'm so glad that he was healthy enough to get this match and to be the guy to end Omos. I don't know why I predicted Omos last night when this match was rumored. It was rumored right here on the stream. I think we saw this happen in real time, and I was like, oh, Lashley's rumored to face Omos. That's awesome. He's going to be the guy to beat Omos. And then I backed off of that for some reason, changed my mind, and I don't know why. Should have seen that coming a mile away with Lashley. And like I said, Sammy and Knoxville definitely exceeded expectations, but it had its ups and downs. You know what I mean? Who else is next? Super Fluffy Toaster. Appreciate 5 from you. One of my favorite moments was, unironically, Wee Man throwing punches at Sammy. That was awesome. Wee Man was not playing any games. He came out from under the ring, just firing piston-like rights and lefts onto Sami Zayn. I was marking out. Did you see Hornswoggle tweeted Sami Zayn? He goes, I'll be awaiting your call. So we might get a Hornswoggle and Wee Man match. Wee Man would fuck him up based on what we saw from Wee Man tonight. And he took that kick to the face like a pro. My God. Man, that had to hurt. Just caved his shit all in. Who's next here before we get into the nonsense? Is it Alex Bryant? I think it's you, bro. Alex Bryan, thank you for the $2. Is Cody going to beat Roman for America and his kid? He might. Who knows? I think they could pull some big angle tomorrow night. We'll be up here tomorrow night after Raw, by the way, so make sure you subscribe so you can be here with us and join because it's going to be fun. And hopefully they will give us a decent Raw after Mania. We haven't gotten one in quite some time. Stone Cold, appreciate the $2. Big Bad Bobby Lashley. Love Big Bad Bobby Lashley. And took down Omos clean, which was awesome. Deshaun, good to see you, bro. Thank you for the $2 and your retracted message. We've got Joshua Aparicio. Thank you very much as well for your 5. The Vince Stunner was the best stunner I've ever seen. I don't care what anybody said. I'm with you, bro. The McAfee Stunner cell was a close second. His was good. And the Linda Stunner. Yeah, Linda Stunner I think was the worst of all time, but Vince has now reclaimed that trophy. I think Vince had the previous worst ones of all time. Who else did Stone Cold stun? Did he stun Mae Young or something? Maybe Mae Young had a worse one, but man, I loved seeing that. I swear to God, Stone Cold was laughing as he was trying to grab him. Like, come here, you bastard. And the way he hit it on him and the way he was laughing after him. Like, you just gotta laugh about that stuff and shake it off and just make it part of the show. And it'll probably go down to be much more legendary than if Vince would have just sold it, in the normal fashion, So fun. The JJ Leg, 5 from you as well. Appreciate it. Where does this Mania rank for you all time? A main event dropped it down for me a bit, but I think I can shockingly say top 10, top 15. I don't know, man. I got to think about where this Mania is going to rank and how you really think about a Mania that's 2 nights long, because last night was great. Tonight was mediocre. You put that together and average it out and then measure it towards other WrestleManias. That's something that I'm going to have to do some Scott Steiner math on before I come up with an actual answer for you. In my head, off the top of my head, my instinct tells me maybe not top 15. If it's top 15 for me, then it's like 15 or 14. I mean, it's way down there. I definitely wouldn't put it on my top 10, even though I enjoyed the show. But you got to remember, we've had nearly 40 WrestleManias, so you got to think about them. And my favorites are different than other people's favorites because I have different WrestleManias that I grew up to than y'all did. So I kind of remember 3 and 4 and 8 and 6 and WrestleManias like that fondly, where today's generation wasn't even born yet. So it just kind of depends on who's doing the judging. You know what I mean? Deshaun, I got 5 more from you coming in. Thank you, my friend. I'm so ready to go to LA for 39. Yeah, we're going to meet, right? We're going to meet up with all y'all. If y'all are going to WrestleMania 39, make sure you follow me over on Twitter next year. Send me a DM. We're going to do a meetup. It's going to be fun. Vince took that stunner like Linda in '05. Good Lord. And who's ready for Edge's Ministry of Broods? Man, I called that one, didn't I? I said the other night, I'm like, there's no way they're going to diss Damian Priest like this. The dude was in a match with Bad Bunny last year. They're going to put him in the Andre Battle Royal and just ditch him out, and that's it. And he's not even going to be on the show. It's bad enough Ricochet and Balor aren't there. But no Damian Priest. I'm like, he's going to come out and help Edge beat AJ because there's the rumored Edge faction. Damian Priest's going to be a part of that, possibly adding some more guys. Perfect way to get out of that, to beat AJ without beating him clean type of thing. And I think Priest should show up, and he did. So that made me happy. Did we get everybody? Nope, I scrolled down to the bottom too quick. JCS, thank you for $2. Got to admit, Vince is jacked for 76 years old. He is, man. He certainly is. I hope I did not miss anybody, but if I did, we will circle back and get to them later. Like I said, again, please, thumbs up, mash it, get your subscribe on. This is a great place to be, so subscribe and stick around. And we're going to get into WrestleMania 38 Night 2. Just to backtrack a little bit on Night 1 real quick to follow up on last night. I have owned, and some of you have been sending me clips, and I appreciate that, and even transcripts, but Cody has been doing a lot of interviews after his debut last night, and even did a big, long interview with Ariel Helwani. Big media scrum. I think Denise had recorded like an hour of footage of him just answering questions. So I haven't gotten a chance to see all of that yet. That's going to be my project today, maybe even tomorrow, because we are going to be up here for the Raw review, and I'll look a little bit more of that. But the few transcripts that I saw, he did mention that there was just a difference of philosophy or opinion with Tony Khan. He still says he respects the hell out of him, but there was a disagreement in vision, and Cody even admitted that he wasn't mature enough to be an executive, and he just felt his time there was done, and he wanted to come back to WWE. Now, one thing I think that all of these interviews have in common is he really does seem genuinely happy to be there, does he not? I mean, he seems happy to be back. And I've been mentioning this. We talked about Cody at length last night, so I don't want to rehash too much and bore you guys shitless. But, you know, as I said last night, if you would have asked me a year ago about Cody going to WWE, I would have been like, ew, no. Why would he do that? No. You know, and even when it was rumored that he was leaving, I'm like, wow, if he goes to WWE, that's pretty surprising. That's pretty incredible. And based on how I know WWE to be, you would think that I'd be resistant to Cody, but I oddly wasn't. You know, once I started processing it and thinking about it, I'm like, you know what? I don't know why. I don't know how to describe this feeling, but for some reason, I'm very excited to see Cody in WWE. I've got no issues with this. I'm not picking a side in this idiot war. You know, I just think that defections are cool. Defections are something that I haven't had as a fan in over 20 years. Many fans today haven't had them at all, which is why they act like idiots about it on Twitter, because they know not what they say. But Cody coming over, it was like all my fears or worries or anger towards WWE and their bullshit just evaporated away, and I was just happy to see Cody. And it was quite the moment. He comes back. He literally rises back into the WWE. The entrance, his AEW presentation was remained completely intact. But I thought it was also pretty symbolic the way he's been gone for 8 years, and he really returns to WWE by just rising up on the stage. I'm here. And just when he came up and you hear the ovation, WWE's YouTube channel has released the footage of him kind of coming to Gorilla or going under the stage, got the hoodie on, the whole deal. And he was interviewed several times, like I said, after the fact. So his whole demeanor, everything that he said, everything that he talked about, he really seems like he's happy to be there. And at the end of the day, that's all I care about. If I like a wrestler, then I want them to be happy. I could give two shits what company they deserve to, or they decide to work for, as long as they're happy and they're comfortable with what they're doing and they're at peace and they've got their family and they're making a living, and it's just where they want to be. It's where they are the happiest. And Cody's home really has been WWE. You know, he's been a big part of that years ago. There's a lot of people that are there now that he trained with and came up with. He knows a lot of people in the company. It is a homecoming for him in a lot of ways. So the departure from AEW was weird. A lot of people were showing Cody love last night from AEW, including Aubrey Edwards and a lot of other people who were just really happy for him and his moment. And, you know, that's what the business is all about. The fans are the ones that are wrapped up in this war. The wrestlers are colleagues, they're acquaintances, they're friends. In some cases, they're even spouses. Why fans oppose respect so much is beyond me. Poor Aubrey Edwards tweeted something nice about Cody, and she just got lambasted in the fucking comments. How can you say that about the competition? The fans just don't know what they're talking about. They have no idea what they're talking about, that these people, all are pro wrestlers. They all meet and cross paths down the road. They're colleagues, they're co-workers. These are people that are your family and your brothers and your sisters. And you see so many relationships and marriages across these two companies. They're not picking crazy sides. Obviously, they're going to work hard for their company they work for, but come on. The fans are the ones acting a little bit unhinged about this. So to me, I don't really care who goes where. Whenever I see a defection, it's cool. It was awesome to see Danielson coming into AEW. It was awesome to see Punk go to AEW. Same thing with Moxley. Same thing with Jericho. Same thing with a lot of guys. Keith Lee, Samoa Joe we're going to see on Wednesday. So I think that having that is really awesome, that we now have that potential to see guys go back and forth. And Cody now finally speaking for the first time, he seemed happy. And to me, that's what it's all about. So good for Cody Rhodes. A few other news and notes that I kind of read through about last night. Apparently Drew McIntyre had some big entrance that they cut for whatever reason. Drew didn't want to do it or whatever. And of course they were running short on time because they had to bump the New Day, Holland, and Sheamus match to tonight, which they should have just put it on the show anyway, because last night had 2 more matches than tonight did. They had more time tonight. They had less shit planned. So they should have just evened it out. Then it turned out to be like 8 matches on each show. But I guess they were factoring in the impromptu Vince match as well. I had a feeling something was uneven. We talked about that in the predictions. I'm like, there's a gap. There's 9 matches, so to speak, if you count the Kevin Owens show on night 1 and only 7 for night 2. What are they going to plan? We thought they were going to unify the women's titles or something like that. We didn't know. And it turned out to be the Vince McMahon match. So, anywho, let's get into running through these results of WrestleMania and actually review this show, since I've been flapping my gums forever. There we go. I'm just making sure we're all good there. And we're good. All right, Daniel, good to see you, man. I do want to knock out that $5 from you because you're my friend. Night 1 was definitely better, but I did enjoy both nights. Well done, WWE. Also, I'll see you next year. I'm ready for next year at WrestleMania 39, right up the road from me in LA, so it's close to home. I'll be able to be there for the whole week and do a lot of festivities, hopefully. So during the next year, start getting with me. We'll plan some meetups and all that stuff. And I will be at Double or Nothing in May in Vegas. So if any of you are going to that, we're going to be doing a meetup probably the day of or the day before or something on Memorial Weekend for Double or Nothing. So hit me up as we get closer to that. We'll be planning something. Just not sure what quite yet. Let's get into WrestleMania Night 2. Tonight opened up with a really nice segment that I wasn't expecting. Triple H opened the show. Triple H's music hits. He comes out. He's dressed in his suit, not in his gear or anything, but he's got a bottle of water in his hand. So I'm like, oh, he's going to come to the ring. Last night, Stephanie made a speech on the stage where she introduced Gable Steveson. So I kind of thought Triple H might be out there to make an announcement. Maybe he's even going to announce some sort of information on the unification, because we still don't know what's going on there. And he comes all the way down to the ring. He does the water thing. He soaks it in from the fans, which was just a really nice moment to see for him. A lot of Attitude Era stars. Just seeing Austin and Triple H and Taker get their love this week was fun. And Triple H, of course, just returned from that, major heart condition and that heart surgery he had that's forced him to officially retire from in-ring competition. So this was basically kind of his farewell. He didn't say anything, didn't cut a promo. He just welcomed everyone to WrestleMania, and the pyro went off, and that was it. I didn't see that he had boots in his hand. So I was like, oh, that's nice, because it was just a moment for him to soak in the love from the crowd. And everything that Triple H has done regarding his retirement, we even did a long podcast after he retired, talking about his career, my favorite moments, how I defended him during the Reign of Terror days, all that stuff. No matter what we discussed with Triple H and his retirement and how, sad that was and how close to death he really came, I was able to handle everything just fine. I wasn't really saddened by it, because I was just happy Triple H was okay and he gave us a great career. And if we didn't have the real send-off or the real final match at the end of the day, I was at peace with it and okay with it. What got me was the boots. I don't know what it was. Just it's so simple. It's just a camera zooming in on a pair of fucking wrestling boots in the ring, and lost it. Because, for me, it's like Triple H, I've watched him wrestle for over half of my life. I remember him from WCW from 1993. talking 30 years ago, man. So watching him come in as the blue blood in 1995, even being a blue blood before that in WCW, but coming in as the American blue blood, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and then transitioning that into DX, and then the the sophomoric, juvenile idiot who then goes babyface and is more of a fun-loving juvenile idiot, and then to completely 180 and go into the cerebral assassin and become a real credible threat to world championships and be able to wrestle a hardcore style as well as be able to wrestle a regular style, old school style. He had a very, Flair, Harley Race kind of grounded type of attack, but I appreciate that type of style from wrestlers. I like those type of world champions. And I think he really patterned himself out of a lot of over a lot of people that he grew up watching or grew up idolizing and stuff. So I just appreciated Triple H's love for the business. I thought he always wore and carried the championship like a champion. I thought the big gold belt looked better on him than anybody. It wasn't even a WWE belt, it's the NWA belt. But around Triple H's waist, I think it looked better around his than it did Flair's and even Dusty's. It just looked so good on Triple H. Goldberg wore it pretty nicely too. But I always just appreciated Triple H. So I was able to talk about all that and not have any emotion over it. But as soon as they kind of did the zoom in on the boots, I'm like, oh, that's official. That's the closure. That's all he was able to do. And I'm glad that he didn't cut a long promo or a long-winded speech. It was simple. It was to the point. He made the statement. The boots told the story. That's all you needed to see. And with Triple H, it does feel final because I don't think he could get back in the ring even if he wanted to with the defibrillator shit in his chest. So that's it. So he got out of the ring. I think hugged his family. I think his daughters or something were in the front row, and that was it. So to me, I wasn't expecting that, and to me, that was nice. I'm glad that we got that. It was a little goodbye for Triple H in front of a massive crowd at WrestleMania where he was able to feel the love and officially make the statement in front of a wrestling audience, not a mainstream audience on ESPN, but to us directly, that's the end. Man, rough. Anywho, he retreats now, and it's time for wrestling. Show opens up with the Raw Tag Team titles on the line. Triple threat, RK Bro defending against the Alpha Academy and the Streets. Good match here. Really fun opener. I think this was the right match to pick here. I think we even mentioned this in the predictions that they'll probably open with this. And I had predicted both sets of tag team champions to retain their titles. I was right about the Usos, and I was right about RK Bro as well. This was a good match. It was a lot of fun. Like I said, super actions-packed. The finish, though, was a lot of fun. Montez Ford he's got Orton down. He's going up for the frog splash. And then Riddle comes up and does a top rope springboard RKO onto Montez Ford and nails him with it. And the crowd popped huge. And then he powders out or something. Gable goes for a top rope move. Did he go for the moonsault or something else? But right after the crowd is still reacting to Riddle's RKO onto Montez, Randy Orton counters Gable coming off the top rope into a beautiful looking RKO for the win. And RK Bro retains the Raw Tag Team titles in a match that I felt should have gone that way. Keep RK Bro together. Watching Riddle just mark out. He looked like he's not acting. He looks like he's a fucking kid in a candy store. He's like, oh my God, we won. He's running around. He's like Nicholas. When Nicholas won the titles with Braun Strowman, he's a kid, but he just kind of sat there and didn't react much. Riddle is like a kid's brain in a man's body. He's fucking hilarious. So after that, Street Profits get in the ring and they're going to offer to celebrate or cheers or something with RK Bro. And that's when they acknowledge Gable Steveson, who is at ringside, and they call him in the ring and they're going to do a big toast with him. And that's when Chad Gable comes from behind and gets mad. And then you got a Gable Steveson and Chad Gable face off. Everybody gets out of the ring and Steveson hits Gable with a belly to belly and celebrates with the faces and drinks and gets the smoke and all that stuff. So that was an okay segment, watching Gable and Gable in there. And Gable Steveson, I've been reading up a little bit on those allegations on him. That makes him feel a little gross to me. But, he's a gold medal winner. That's a huge deal. If you're able to sign somebody who wins the gold medal, you should absolutely push him, But to me, at least my initial impressions of him, he doesn't have that same presence that Angle did, or even Brock for that matter. So I don't think WWE would make such a big deal about him and put him in segments at WrestleMania if they didn't think this guy could hack it in the ring. Obviously, he's been training, and he's been working out, so they must like what they see from him, but he just doesn't, he probably will get that, but right now he doesn't seem to have that like intensity. He's got to get into that pro wrestling state of mind. He's coming from an amateur background, and he's got all sorts of, foundation laid for him already, just like Kurt Angle did. So Kurt didn't have it at first either. Kurt was a little awkward and took him some time to get it. So I'm not going to completely judge this kid right away. He's young, he can learn, and with the abilities that he has, he can turn out to be another, Angle or Brock if everything goes right. But so far, he doesn't have that intimidating presence to me. When Brock, throws you around and he doesn't have that. He just looks kind of like just a normal, quiet, more soft-spoken guy. So I hope that he's able to unleash his, inner beast, and this guy becomes a huge deal, because WWE needs that. Wrestling needs that. Wrestling needs some good, credible champions after, Angle's been out of the ring now for quite some time. Brock isn't going to last forever. So you need new ones. And Riddle would be another guy, that I'd like to see maybe taken in that direction at some point, although, he doesn't have the best allegation reputation either. But he's another guy that has legitimacy to him and would be fun if he can get on the map one day. So RK Bro retains, and Gable Steveson actually gets physical with Chad Gable. And I have a feeling they're going to do something else tomorrow night on Raw. Gable's not going to settle for that. He's going to come out and shoosh everybody and maybe call Steveson back into the ring. And something might happen there. We'll see. After that, we get Omos taking on Lashley. Now, Omos comes to the ring. Now, my one complaint with this match is they took Omos off his feet on Raw on Monday. Wasn't that dumb? I mean, I guess that was to make a statement of Lashley returning and to make that memorable, but Omos hasn't been taken off his feet yet. You should have done that here at WrestleMania, or had Omos face a mystery partner and it turns out to be Lashley and he comes out and beats him. I don't know. So I was a little bit less interested in this match than I was before Omos got knocked off his feet, but it was still pretty good. He was very dominant on Lashley early. Lashley, by the way, looked awesome with his gear, and his whole entrance and everything was great. Took a gnarly bump, though. Omos has got Lashley up, and Omos is so big. He's just ridiculously big, like Giant Gonzalez big. Doesn't know his own strength. And he's got Lashley up, and he basically just buckle bombs him, but Lashley lands really high on the top turnbuckle, and his head leans back and whacks that fucking ring post and hits it hard. Remember Cesaro knocked all his teeth out on that thing? That thing is dangerous as hell. So he hits the back of his head, but he's able to recover just fine. He recovers enough to actually hit a suplex on Omos, and when he gets him into position, it looked like it was an action figure, trying to hit a suplex on a stuffed animal. It looked ridiculous. And I'm like, Omos is going to have to help him here and get him over, and Lashley was able to hit it. So, despite getting knocked in the head and having his bell rung a bit there, he was still able to hit Omos with a pretty impressive suplex in the ring. Then he goes for, interesting, Roman would use this on Brock later on, but Omos, I think, is kind of getting up from the suplex, and Lashley hits him with like a backwards or reverse spear, hits him in the back, and Omos goes down, and then he kind of gets up struggling, and then Lashley hits him with a regular spear and gets the win, pins Omos and beats him, and I'm perfectly happy with that. Part of me in my head was like, oh, should a younger guy beat Omos? But Lashley, this is a win that they should give him, because even though they put the world title on him, it seems like he was always still kind of second or third fiddle here and there, and he shouldn't be. He shouldn't be losing to Goldberg or anybody like that. So the fact that they kind of have done him right this year, he actually does have a victory over Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble, and then in the Elimination Chamber, he didn't even compete to lose his title. And now with Omos, he gets this victory at WrestleMania, and you got to think that he'd be another guy that should be right at the top of the list or the front of the line for title shots, given the nature of how he lost it. So that's why it makes me wonder with Lashley and Cody and with guys like this, if WWE is going to branch off one of those titles tomorrow and do a tournament or a one-night tournament and take the 5 contenders or something, the Seths, the Codys, the Lashleys, and whoever, and do a little mini tournament or something and then crown a new champion. You got time to do it. It's a 3-hour show. You totally have time. Roman opens the show. Here's your belt back. Sonya and Adam scramble together, make an 8-man tournament. Boom. Next match starts after the commercial break. You can get it done in 3 hours. No problem. Wouldn't be surprised if they did that. I honestly wouldn't. But we'll see what they do tomorrow. But Lashley getting a win. he deserved that. I'm so glad that injury did not keep him out of WrestleMania, because that bummed me out. I even tweeted that. I said that my biggest, the thing that makes me the saddest about him dropping the title at the Elimination Chamber was him missing WrestleMania. So the fact that he didn't miss WrestleMania and he got that match and got a win and got a paycheck, very happy for Bobby. Bobby's the best. Probably, I can't believe I'm saying this, Edge and AJ was great, but I think Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville was my favorite match on the card. Am I crazy? Are y'all going to unsubscribe from me for saying that? Does anybody agree with that statement? That this was the best match on the card? I thought it was. I thought it was fucking hilarious. So Knoxville and Sami, they get in the ring, bell rings, start to battle a little bit. Knoxville's dressed in that ridiculous red and white getup. Sami is on the outside of the ring, and he reaches under the ring, and you hear this like snap, and I'm like, oh God. I knew right away. I'm like, oh, they're going to start bringing out Jackass props. I thought that there was a taser gun or something under there. I didn't even see, because I was only half paying attention. I'm typing, I'm tweeting, I'm doing other shit, so I'm like kind of watching peripherally. And I didn't see the big hand. I didn't see the big Mark Henry and Mae Young hand out there, and I didn't even see the ball bashing mechanical leg thing either. I don't know how I missed any of that shit. So Sami reaches under the ring first and gets snapped by a mousetrap, and there's an entire table just covered in mousetraps. That gets set up, and you get Party Boy showing up later on too, which was really fun. And I think probably one of the earlier nasty bumps was from Knoxville. He took an exploder suplex. Johnny Knoxville taking an exploder through a table, leaned up in the corner, is just a spot and a move and a sentence I would never expect to hear. Johnny Knoxville at age 50, with all kinds of head trauma and injuries over the years, is somehow cleared enough to take a fucking exploder through a table in a WWE ring. That's crazy. That's when Party Boy shows up, and I was hoping we'd see some guys. I'm surprised Steve-O wasn't here. He's probably on tour or doing other things. He's very busy, but I was hoping Steve-O would parachute in or something. Maybe you don't want to be fucking with stuff with the roof, out of respect for Owen, but I imagined or envisioned Steve-O doing some crazy fucking stunt to make his entrance into the match and helping Johnny Knoxville beat Sami Zayn, but we got Party Boy instead. And then my favorite part of the night, after Party Boy is dancing and Pat McAfee screams out, he's got his thing on Zayn, or something like that, which cracked me up and popped me. Then Sammy's on the outside of the ring again, and Wee Man comes out from under the ring like a house of fucking fire. He is a maniac. And he just bum rushes Sami Zayn, and he's just peppering him with rights and lefts like a maniac. He is not playing any games at all. That was my favorite. That was my favorite spot of the whole match, was Wee Man coming out of there like a madman. So he goes off on Sami. He does find himself back in the ring, though, where Sami is able to legitimately kick him in the face. I believe he hit him with the haluva kick. And just mashed his face in. They showed a slow-mo, and it was similar to, how John Cena had that nose thing, and it was like on the other side of his face. I'm pretty sure the same thing happened to Wee Man. So by now, we might have some tweets, we might have some social media pictures of Wee Man's face, but I'd imagine it's pretty fucking bruised, unless he just has a face made of steel, because that looked rough, and I don't know if he was supposed to do that, like, yeah, kick me for real, make it look good, or what. But this match was stiff, man, and a match that you're expecting just to be silly and fun and ridiculous, which it was stiff as hell. So poor Wee Man gets his face caved in. Then Sami is going to take the bowling ball spot. We've seen this before way back in the day during the early days of the hardcore title. We used to see this a lot. And Knoxville's got the bowling ball. Sami's in the corner with his legs split. And normally when you do this, you roll the ball into the balls, but you're not using all your strength. And fucking Knoxville just shoots this thing 9,000 miles an hour like a cannon right at the precious jewels of Sami Zayn, and he just had to take that. I mean, I don't know how else you do it unless he's wearing a cup. Even if you're wearing a cup, it's got to hurt. So I don't even know how he was able to finish the match after that. So he takes the bowling ball to the balls, which was nuts. And then Sami winds up getting hit with the kick to the balls with the mechanical leg thing, which was also ridiculous. Knoxville busts out a taser gun, starts chasing poor Sami Zayn all over the ringside area with the taser. And as Sami's kind of running away from that, that's when that hand that I somehow didn't even notice that was out there, that they used in think they used it in Jackass 3D. That was one of the segments where they were just smashing everybody with the hand. It was basically that thing, and Sammy runs right into it. Didn't look like it had the power and the force that it did in the movie when Sammy hit it, but that was kind of funny. And then they bring out this giant, enormous mousetrap. They lay Sammy in it and set the mousetrap off, and this big, giant bar just comes smashing down on him, pinning him down, and Knoxville is able to jump on top of him with help from the giant mousetrap to beat Johnny Knoxville. That's a sentence I said out loud. Johnny Knoxville defeated Sami Zayn with help from a giant, oversized mousetrap. Wrestling. Catch it. That match was super fun, y'all. It really was. Wrestling needs that. I need matches like that. Stop taking wrestling too seriously. I mean, if any of you have girlfriends, I promise if you were sitting next to her during this match, she was laughing her ass off. She was laughing her ass off. So if you're angry about this match, then you're just womanless. But I promise you, stuff like this is fun. Stuff like this is good for wrestling. It doesn't mean anything. It's a great spot for Sami Zayn to be in, even with the loss. He's on a big stage, ton of exposure, working with a celebrity. You don't care if I'm a wrestler or something like that, or I'm trying to further my career, or whatever, or trying to get, stay employed. I'm not really caring if I'm losing this match at all. I'm working WrestleMania against a celebrity. That's a big spot to be in, no matter which way you slice it in WWE. So that was really fun. And the celebrities, they all came through. Pat McAfee, even though he's more closer to a wrestling person now than a celebrity or an outsider. He's an insider now. But between Knoxville and who was the fucking one yesterday? Logan Paul, who I hate but did well. That's all we should ask as fans. WWE is never going to not involve celebrities. So if they are going to do it, what we ask is these celebrities don't suck and they don't get in there and do anything like Snooki did that one year. If you're going to get in there, actually do shit. And Knoxville did. He took bumps. And so did Logan Paul and looked good doing it. So it's all I can ask. WrestleMania is 2 nights long, multiple hours per night. I don't give a shit if they threw a few celebrities in there. It's been that way since the very beginning. The very first WrestleMania ever was filled with celebrities. It's what WrestleMania is about. So there's kind of no point in bitching about that. It's WrestleMania. It's what they do. Bitch about celebrities at Backlash. I don't really care about WrestleMania. After that, we had the women's fatal 4-way tag team title match. Champions Carmella and Zelina defending against Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, Natalya and who the hell? And Shayna. And of course, Sasha Banks and Naomi. Didn't watch most of this match, although I was happy with the crowd involvement in this. They really seemed to be into it. Maybe the match was better than I'm giving it credit for, but I had it on right here on my very large monitor, and I was walking around doing stuff. I was making a snack. I was eating some nachos. I was getting a new beverage. I went to the bathroom, scratched my ass, did all that stuff, and from what I could tell, I could hear the crowd into it, but I wasn't really fully paying attention to this match. But I do know that Sasha and Naomi got the win. I don't remember what I predicted yesterday. I think I predicted Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, but I wasn't thinking it through because I literally don't care about the women's tag team titles at all. So I should have known that it would be Sasha and Naomi. It should be them. Sasha, a few years ago, dropped the tag team titles at WrestleMania, so it's nice of her to win it back. Everybody's been wanting Naomi to get back on the map one day. This might be a good little placeholding thing for her to do for a little while before they put her back in some sort of a title match with someone once Charlotte and Ronda's thing runs its course. Might even be fun to get a Ronda Rousey and Naomi match. I have a feeling Ronda's still going to beat Charlotte for the title. I'm glad it didn't happen last night, but I have a feeling it will in the future. And she'll have a run before her contract is up. And Naomi would be a fun person for her to drop the belt to. Who knows? So we'll see. But Sasha and Naomi winning, I'm perfectly fine with that outcome. Then we get AJ Styles and Edge. This is a dream match for a lot of us. Many of us have been waiting for this and pining for this match for a long time, for many years. We knew when Edge came back, AJ was one of the guys that he was going to want to work with. I think he even said as much. There's some people in NXT and guys like that Edge, I think, wants to do business with before he retires for good, and AJ was on that list, and the fact that they were able to wait here and do a Mania program with these guys, is even better. So Edge having that change of heart, attacking AJ, kind of going heel. We've heard the rumors that he's going to be starting a faction and possibly adding Damian Priest and guys like that. That's why last night in or Friday night in my predictions, I predicted Edge to win with the help from Damian Priest, and that's what happened. But the match itself, I wasn't sure what we were going to get. It would remain largely in the ring, but I thought maybe it could get a little nuts too, and we could even see some blood. We did see some blood, but not the kind we thought. I was excited to see these guys' entrances. I thought both were going to get some sort of a signature entrance. I think for a match like this, they both should have. But AJ just basically got his normal entrance. Now, we heard the story about Drew McIntyre nixing his entrance. They had some guys out there in kilts doing shit with swords, and he just didn't like it and said he didn't want to do it, so they didn't make him. I don't know if AJ had something similar, but I'm surprised that AJ didn't get some sort of fun, grand entrance because he should. But he gets his regular entrance, and I guess as he's coming through the entranceway there, he smacks his face on the big WrestleMania set. But I didn't see that. None of us did. He's just standing there. The pyro goes off, and then as the camera's following him to the ring, you see the side of his face just busted, and he's bleeding. So my first thought was, did he get tagged by the pyro right in the face? And I even tweeted that. I think it was No DQ retweeted me. I got to delete that because it got all sorts of people telling me that no, it wasn't the pyro, it was the stage. But also a lot of people didn't know what it was, so they took me at face value. They're like, oh, it was the pyro that hit him. I'm like, no, that was just an assumption. I didn't know what else it could have been. You know, he came through and he started walking, he's bleeding, and I'm like, well, unless there was a fight at Gorilla, and we've seen pyro accidents before, I just kind of assumed too much. So I need to go delete that tweet before I get 9 million responses. And people are going to let me know that the stage hit him all the way up until Friday. I'll be reminded repeatedly of that. So it was the stage, not the pyro, which is actually good news. That was a relief when I saw that. I'm like, oh, okay. I think it was Ryan Satin that originally tweeted that belief that it was the set piece, and then a video was released of AJ coming through, and yeah, you can see he smacks himself, so he just wasn't watching where he was going. Plus these sets are ridiculous, and he just got popped there. So he shook it off, though. That kind of had to be a little frustrating, you know, whenever you bang your head or your shin, don't you get pissed? You're like, motherfucker. Imagine doing that, but you have to go right into a WrestleMania entrance. That's just gotta fuck with you a little bit, you know. I'd almost be mad, like, god damn it, I was feeling so good and this has to happen. To not let that shake your focus. It takes an amazing amount of professionalism, and AJ's a pro. He's a 25, 30-year fucking pro, whatever he is now. So he knows how to handle this stage. Undertaker's had to deal with that. He got burned in the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view and still did the match and stuff like that. So AJ smacking himself, at least that's something that he can just be frustrated at himself for, because if he would have been hit in the face with pyro, I was worried if AJ was mad. I'm like, you know, AJ might be pissed. He might go back there and chew somebody out when he gets after the match. Like, who the fuck did fucking pyro? You're going to kill somebody one of these days. If he had to wrestle and work that entire match against Edge pissed off, I think that would have affected the match. So when I found out and we noticed that it was the set that did it to him, not the pyro, I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that's good, because otherwise that would have been crazy negligence. Oh, we've got a tweet here. Thank you, Ryan. It's Foley's reaction to Vince's stunner cell, and Mick Foley is like shit in his pants laughing so hard. That's really funny. So I'm just glad that it turned out not to be something more serious than it was. But yeah, AJ came out a little bloody at first, and like I said, he just had his regular entrance. Edge, however, had this awesome kick-ass looking thing. Now, I was at SummerSlam to see his Brood entrance, which was cool, but he comes up from the stage, is on this throne, very Ministry, Undertaker, Ministry of Darkness, Aleister Black-ish type of vibe, but a little bit less dark and more heavy metal, but still dark. I don't know. Am I describing any of this shit right? Loved it. It looked so badass. Still getting used to Edge's theme song and stuff. I know a lot of people love it. But the whole entire presentation just looked great. And that's what I was waiting for. I knew Edge was going to have a good one. I kind of wish they would have done a little more for AJ, though, in terms of giving him something special in his entrance. But the match, like I said, was largely in the ring. I thought with the heat that it had, with Edge doing what he did to AJ, we would see a little bit more brawling than we did. I thought this would be another match where WWE might bend on their blood rule and let us see a little bit, because I think this match warrants it. But it was just in the ring. It was a little bit reminiscent of the match that Edge would have with Orton, the greatest wrestling match ever that they tried to do in the performance. It was just, mostly in the ring, but it was really good. This is a match that I think Edge and AJ have always wanted to work together. And I kind of sat back and enjoy it because I don't know how many times we're going to get to see AJ Styles against Edge. I'm sure we're going to see it at least one more time, but it's the first time we have seen it. I'm such major fans of both of these guys. I watched Edge. I was like in the front row to watch Edge in dark matches back in the day before he even debuted. So to see him like where he is now, this is special to me. So I kind of didn't really make many notes. I just sat back and watched. Didn't start making notes until I think it was Edge took the superplex on the apron. Edge took the superplex on the apron. And I mentioned this once before. The very idea of Edge taking a Styles Clash gives me a fucking heart attack. It makes me so anxious. And he got in Styles Clash position, and AJ hit it, and he hit it perfectly, but AJ's injured a couple of guys before, and that's a move that, if done wrong, can kill you, and Edge already has the neck problems, and my heart skipped a beat. When I saw AJ going for it, I'm like, oh God, just be careful, guys, just be careful. Jesus, and he hit it, all was fine, no big deal. And after he hits the Styles Clash on Edge, seemingly to win the championship, right on the outside of the ring, out of nowhere, Damian Priest, standing there, looking right in the ring, enough to kind of distract AJ a little bit from Edge, who winds up recovering. And I think AJ's going for the forearm is what it is. Yeah, AJ's going for the forearm. He hits the Styles Clash. He's on the outside of the ring. He's either going to go for the forearm or the 450, one or the other, and he's on the ring apron. That's when he sees Priest. That was enough to kind of distract him a little bit to where he does go for the springboard. Edge counters with a spear. He was probably going for the forearm, and Edge hits him with the spear for the win, and Damian Priest slides in the ring. The two men kind of look at each other and smile, and there you go. So the rumors are true. The rumors were confirmed tonight that Edge is going to form a stable and an alliance with Damian Priest. They could be adding guys to this. I would love to see one of these guys be Finn Balor. Honestly, I know Balor and Priest were just battling for that U.S. title, but I think Balor would be a good guy to stick in the group because they're not doing shit with him either, even though he is U.S. champion. Champions get pinned all the time, and it's like they're just giving him the belt to give him something to do. He doesn't really have any sort of direction in his character or his anything, So if they added him to the group and you kind of made like an Edge Balor Bullet Club type of thing with them, Balor, you got to remember he's the demon, so he could tap back into that. You get the demon, and then you've got this new persona of Edge, and then Damian Priest, who's already kind of this darker character. He wears guy liner, so, he's automatically a little bit edgy, so no pun intended. So you start putting a group like that together, that can be a badass stable, man. We need a good stable. Do we even have any stables right now in WWE? AEW's got a ton of them, but if WWE could create one that actually stayed together, because anytime they do start putting a stable together that has promise, like the Hurt Business, they fuck it up immediately. So even if they do form a stable with Priest, Edge, and Balor and somebody else, and we're all marking out, they'll fuck it up. The very next week, these guys will be losing in a match or something. So I just hope that WWE doesn't disband it too quickly. But, then again, Edge, he's not really a full-timer either. Edge is a guy that we usually expect to kind of disappear every now and then or for a few months at a time before coming back. But, he might be on TV on a regular basis now if he is, in fact, going to form a faction. So we'll see. Hopefully tomorrow they will add somebody else on Raw. That's what I hope anyway. What match was next? Oh, they did the attendance thing. So they decided to announce the attendance, but that was botched. It was kind of funny. First of all, it's their kayfabe attendance. The house was great. I'm not shitting on their attendance. WWE drew a lot of people for WrestleMania. They usually do. It's not out of the question. But for some reason, WWE just insists on kayfabing the attendance. They just have to pad it. They can't resist. Even when the audience is great, they have to pad it. It's still up, and it's still debatable if they even put 100,000 in at 32, or if they just said they did. But last night's attendance was announced at 77,000 something, and then tonight the ring announcer announced it as 77,000. I think like 450 something, but on the screen it said 78,000. So the last night was 77,000. Tonight was 78, but they announced it to the crowd as 77, which was pretty funny because none of these numbers are even accurate if you just go look at the numbers for the paid ticket sales. But this isn't something that bothers me because this is WrestleMania 38. I was at WrestleMania 3 when they claimed 93,000 people were there. There's a lot of fucking people there, but they obviously did add a little bit to that. And that was 35 years ago. They've been doing it ever since. So you kind of get used to it. So I didn't care that they pat it because they always do. I just thought it was funny that they botched the announcement, which is always funny and heartwarming when WWE botches something. Oh my God, here's something that wasn't heartwarming. My God. New Day taking on Ridge, Holland, or just Ridge, and Sheamus. New Day, my God. Xavier and Kofi come out wearing Big E themed gear. They were wearing the same gear or the same pattern that he was wearing when he won the WWE title, which I thought was awesome. They both looked great. It was like watching two little biggies wrestle out there, and seeing Kofi in the shorts. We haven't seen him wear that since he came in, and he was Jamaican Kofi. And when he was wearing that Big E gear, I don't know why it made me think of this, but it made me think of Bret Hart at Survivor Series 93 when he teamed up with his brothers and he had to wear the matching singlet thing, but they were short, and you'd never seen Bret wear that before. And it was just weird watching him. And I got the same exact feeling from Kofi. I was also hoping to see a Big E appearance. I don't know. I'm sure the doctors have advised him to take it easy, because he's suffering from trying to heal from a broken neck, but he's been bored as shit around his house. He's going on walks. He's filming videos, building Lego sets. He's hilarious. And he seems like he's stir crazy as shit. So I was kind of hoping they would just bring him in and do a backstage segment with him, or maybe even just have him out in the ring and wave, not get physical, obviously, but just do something and appear. If he was able to get home from the hospital where he had the broken neck, he should be able to travel, I think. I just thought. So I was kind of hoping we would see him. But this, I think, on the entire card was the most underwhelming match of the whole show. Not only did the New Day lose, which they shouldn't have. You got Kofi, former WWE champion, and Xavier, who's just beloved by everybody. Ridge Holland's the guy that injured Big E, or as Xavier calls him, Botch. He calls him Butch, Botch, and Bitch. He called him yesterday in their promo, which popped me. So Botch is the one that actually got the pin. He pinned Xavier Woods for the win. Sheamus and Ridge Holland win in probably one of the most underwhelming matches and finishes of the whole night. They bumped this match just to do it here for it to be. Is that what they were going to do last night? They would have been better off keeping this match on last night's show, to where the ridiculousness of it would have been buried under a lot of great shit with Cody and Bianca and all that. But not cool, WWE, what you did in New Day there. Did not like that one single bit. After that, they had The Undertaker come out for one final salute. They ran through the Hall of Fame again. Every single match after the match, we'd be running through highlights from last night. Or I guess if you're a non-Peacock premium subscriber, you have to watch ads. That sucks. So that's what they watched. But in between matches, you have all this shit. So next up, we had the rundown of the Hall of Fame, and then we had The Undertaker come out. But man, for a minute there, I thought the dude was coming out in his gear, because after they salute the Hall of Fame, the lights go down. Undertaker's music hits, the purple lights. He takes a long time to come out. And then when he does, he's in a normal suit. I'm like, phew. I actually thought he might come out. You know what I thought he was going to do? I thought he was going to come out in his gear and maybe do the symbolic thing in the ring again like he did at WrestleMania 33. But I'm like, he undid that. That's his own fault. Then he had the retirement, albeit in the Thunderdome. It was still that retirement. To the best of my knowledge, he has not appeared in his gear since then, and I don't think he plans to. But I thought that maybe since that was in the Thunderdome, he might come out here one final time in the hat and everything and just look at the crowd and that sort of thing. But instead, he just kind of saunters around the stage, which is fine, but that's kind of what we got last night. And for him to do that again, it's awesome. Don't get me wrong. Undertaker's one of the best. I loved his Hall of Fame speech, his induction, and all of that, and everything they did last night. But is it really truly going to be the last time we're ever going to see him again? I firmly believe that The Undertaker will make some sort of an appearance in person at upcoming WrestleManias, or even one of those dumb Legends Raws when the ratings are in the trash and WWE panics and says, oh, let's just book a bunch of guys for Raw. He'll be back. Just to do something, not to wrestle, obviously, but I think he can always make appearances. So I wasn't looking at The Undertaker here in a way that was telling me it's the last time I'm ever going to see him. We've already had 6 Undertaker goodbyes. So I didn't need, even though I liked everything that we've had so far, I didn't need this. And like I said, I expect to see his face again. At some point, we're going to hear the gong and we're going to hear the music, and Undertaker's going to come out and make some sort of an appearance on the stage. Maybe he'll never be in the Undertaker full gear again, but I certainly don't think it's the last time we've ever seen Mark Calloway in some capacity in WWE. We'll see him again. And after that, we had Pat McAfee and Austin Theory. And now we're down to our final two matches. It's just that and Roman and Brock is all we have left at this point. Where are my supers? Let me knock out these super chats before we get into McAfee and Austin Theory. I would still appreciate the thumbs up button smashes for me if you don't mind. Hook me up. Where are we at? There we go. Zane G, I got to get you. I got to make sure there was nobody else I missed prior to that. I got Double X. Oh, I got Chris. I got a few. Okay, we got to knock these out. All right, Daniel, I got you. Chris, I want to say hi to you from earlier. Appreciate that $10, my man. Hey, Greg, I'm still devastated about Duke's loss. That's right. I didn't watch any of that yesterday. And Raw's got to go head-to-head with the national championship tomorrow, right? But with Cody, 2.5 years ago, he was definitely a star in the people's eyes in AEW. I'm interested to see how he's booked long-term. Me too. I'm interested to see how the fans react to him because his debut was so awesome last night. I have a feeling fans are going to turn on him soon, especially if he kind of insists on being this babyface type of thing. And it seemed like they were teasing something big in AEW with him, that face, I don't want to turn heel type of thing. We already went through this once in WWE with John Cena, and I worry that the fans, when Jericho came back, in like 2007, and they just weren't feeling him until he kind of found his niche and went in that right direction. I feel like we might need that from Cody first. The novelty of him might wear off a little bit, and he'll need to kind of get reinvented, and it also depends on how WWE presents him and books him. If the fans in their minds get the idea that Cody's given too much, they're going to turn on him immediately. So it just depends on how they work him and how they present him and all of that. But I think his first promo was probably going to be pretty genuine. I think his first promo was going to be very sappy and very baby-facey, and he's going to be very emotional and happy to be back, and probably mentioned his dad. Even in some of the footage and the interviews he's done just in the last 24 hours, he was getting choked up about a few things. So I think tomorrow he'll have some nice baby-face, sappy shit to say about being back. Any fans mad at him will be dicks about it. And then after that, we'll see where he goes. But I kind of feel like he's going to be a big deal right from the start based on some of the rumors we've heard. Double XL, thank you for the $5 as well. Will you go back to doing regular videos like before? Your lives have a lot of rambles. I rather hear that after. No, live streams is kind of the way this channel is going. I did do a video like I used to just the other day. It's on my channel right now. WrestleMania Wrong Winners. It's about an hour long, full podcast, edited, uploaded to where there's no rambling. And you can check that out, Double XL. It's a good video. I do those from time to time for sponsored videos. But in terms of weekly reviews, live is easier. Live is all I have time for. And live is fun because I can talk to y'all while I'm doing it. Was that everybody? No, Zane G. Thank you so much, dude. Appreciate the $10 from you. With Roman Reigns winning tonight, does WWE rid of one of the WWE championships? That's what we were just talking about earlier. Does Reigns make an appearance on both brands? Does Lesnar defeat Reigns at WrestleMania Backlash? I don't know. I think my gut instinct tells me that Lesnar's gone for a while. I think Lesnar's going to take some time off. He's been on TV a lot since coming back at SummerSlam. I think the point was for him to come back, build a Mania program with Roman, put him over and leave. And that's what Brock did. I think this probably was maybe the plan ever since SummerSlam. It's just they got thrown off track there a little bit with the day one when they booked the match there. I have no idea what their intention initially was. Did they really mean to have Brock and Roman at day one and then turn around and do it at WrestleMania right after you did it in Saudi Arabia? I did find that to be weird, but it also feels like from the moment Brock came back at SummerSlam after Roman had beat John Cena, now he's more dominant than ever. And, that set up your big program because this is a guy that Roman has not been able to topple and defeat. Yeah, he defeated him, but not defeat him. He's got to own him. He's got to put him down, slay the beast, stand over him celebrating. I was hoping that the main event tonight would have what we saw at the house show at MSG be in the main event. Just a bloody beaten Brock with Roman celebrating over him. Talk about a statement, my God. So Roman's on a short list now of guys that have held the title as long as he has. So we'll see what they do with the championships. We speculated on ideas on that in the beginning of the podcast here. Roman could come out and say, I've beat everybody. I don't need 2 titles. Take one back, have a tournament, crown a new champion. Or if we're really going to merge these championships and present Roman with a brand new title, that's one title. one new WWE title. I really don't want the lineage of the WWE title fucked with. So if they do merge these, I hope they don't rename the title completely and start a whole new title history. I think the main title in the company, whatever the hell, the one that Brock wore as of tonight that Roman now holds as well, that's the title. The black title is the one that traces all the way back, to Bruno and Buddy Rogers and shit like that. That's the belt. The Universal title is like 6 years old. So if you're going to merge them, make the WWE title one title again. And like I said, we pitched this before, but you'd know this is an impossibility based on how Ricochet and Balor are not even booked for WrestleMania. But I think having one champion floating between both brands and then make, how AEW has the TNT title that just has banger main events all the time for the championship, main eventing their TV shows that are made to feel important and not just, just copy and paste shit week after week. They actually try to change things up, give us meaningful matches, give us pay-per-view quality stuff, and give us championship matches, a lot that mean something, that aren't championship contender matches or anything like that. They're actual matches. And if you elevated the U.S. and the Intercontinental title to feel like that and to make them important and basically make them the top titles on the show whenever the world champion isn't there, explain to me how that wouldn't work. I just think that would be so much better for just the business in general and WWE's value of their own titles. But I don't know. It doesn't sound like they're going to do that because they don't even feel the IC and the U.S. title is important enough to even put on WrestleMania. And you also got to take into consideration the women's titles. What are you going to do with them? If you're merging the men's, how are you going to have two women's titles? How's that going to work? Zayn, tune into Raw tomorrow to find out. Hopefully, we will get some answers on that. And hopefully it won't be a deal where we get no answers, where Roman comes out, basks in the glory, brags and celebrates and then doesn't reveal anything. He just leaves with both belts. And I'm like, okay, if he just does that, if he comes out and has a celebration promo, doesn't say anything about the future of the championships and just leaves with both belts and he's walking around on TV with both belts, that's not going to last. It's not going to last. They're going to take one away or move one away or recreate one or something. So the longer he has both belts with him, the more that's going to indicate to me that they're going to separate them again. But if tomorrow night they just unveil a brand new one right off the bat, then I guess we'll have our answer. We got to get into Pat McAfee and Austin Theory now. I think I've knocked out the rest of the super chats. Sorry, there was something itching my face. Don't know what it is. But McAfee and Austin Theory was up next. This match was a lot of fun. Vince McMahon comes to the ring first. No chance in hell hits. He makes that long walk all the way down. The fans are chanting. They're loving it. Happy to see Vince there. Vince introduces Austin Theory, who comes down, and followed by Pat McAfee, who's got the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders dancing him to the ring. And he's got that song that you hear at every football game playing that the fans sing to and chant to, and he's over. McAfee is over like fucking Rover, and you just love to see it. This was so fun. The crowd was just amped for this before the bell even rang. During entrances here, they're all about Pat. Brilliant move having Pat come out to that song because it's really going to get the crowd wired and amped up because they're going to hear that. They're going to want to chant it, want to sing it, and want to follow along. So bell rings, and we get a pretty fun little match between these two. McAfee and Austin, I was thinking that McAfee would do something really insane, some sort of a big bump, but he didn't really have to do that. He was just out there doing his moves. Obviously, he's been training and working really hard and winds up taking a lot of bumps and taking a lot of punishment. The crowd, like I said, was super into it. Pat's probably biggest move, the one that I have written down first by the time they got warmed up and stuff, was a big superplex from the top that we see all the time. We see superplexes virtually in every match, but for some reason, the crowd really popped for this one. It was a big moment. They're all over the outside of the ring. And in the end, McAfee winds up just winning with a schoolboy. They got Vince out there. I should mention that. He's at ringside near the commentary booth watching this match, so they keep panning over to him, reacting to this. And I think the best part of the match was when McAfee was doing commentary. He went over to Michael Cole, put the headset on, and continued beating up Austin Theory, but he kind of was able to, he had a lot of slack basically on the microphone cord, and he was able to carry the headset almost to the ring apron. And I was like, man, he should borrow Undertaker's headset from the Hall of Fame and call his own match because he was doing pretty good. Back in the day, we saw Lawler call his own matches in WWE, but you should actually wear the headset and do it. That would be hilarious. And he was doing it well. It was like you were watching an episode of SmackDown. He was just punching Austin Theory in between sentences. It was pretty good. But like I said, in the end, McAfee wins with a pretty simple schoolboy, pins Austin Theory. And of course, Vince McMahon is very upset. McAfee celebrates. The crowd goes nuts. And then Vince, who is in the ring now, I think kind of gets in McAfee's face, and then he's on the outside of the ring with Austin Theory, kind of giving him a little bit of shit too. And McAfee, I guess, is kind of calling Vince in the ring, and you can see Vince looking at him, and I'm like, oh God. And again, I'm like, we might get a scuffle, or a little fight, some physicality, but given what we saw last night with Austin and his impromptu match, and the rumors we already heard that this was supposed to be a match between Vince and McAfee anyway, I'm like, oh God. And then Vince starts unbuttoning his shirt, and then he rips it off to expose the guns, and he's ready to rock. I'm like, oh my God. And then there's a referee standing there for some reason, and he gets in the ring, and he's face to face. He's 76 years old, and this dude is still jacked and can probably bench more than any of us here. And he's now face to face with Pat McAfee. Austin Theory comes in from behind and nails McAfee and puts him down, and then the bell rings, and now this is an official match. Vince McMahon versus Pat McAfee. Pat has been taken out by Theory, so he struggles to get to his feet. Vince hits him with some really weak-ass clotheslines that really looked like he was an 80-year-old man clotheslining you, but McAfee sold it like he was a 20-year-old man clotheslining him. So good stuff there, watching Vince kind of toy with McAfee a little bit. Takes him down with the multiple clotheslines, but after Theory gets involved a couple of times, I think McAfee is about to kind of come back on Vince a little bit, and Theory stops him. And then Vince has the football. He gets like a football somehow. And the finish, it was kind of weak, but I didn't care. The finish is Theory. McAfee's slumped over in the ring. Vince has got the football, and he's going to punt the football. And he basically takes the ball, and he actually does kick it. He's able to line it up, and he punts it right into the chest of McAfee. Didn't look like it hurt that bad, but it was enough to put him down. Vince covers him and gets the win and wins a match at WrestleMania. So Stone Cold Steve Austin won a match last night. Vince McMahon wins a match tonight. So you think that's going to be it. Vince and McAfee are going to celebrate. And this was the funniest shit, because they are celebrating after the win, but no music is played yet. Vince has literally just pinned Pat McAfee. So then as the camera is kind of focused in on Vince and Austin Theory celebrating, Austin Theory's music hits, but Vince McMahon reacts like that. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be, I was like, somebody's coming. Vince just spoiled it. I forgot what match it was earlier. The camera the camera cuts. They cut to a crowd shot right in the middle of a near fall, essentially spoiling the near fall, because they're not going to cut to the crowd if that's the finish. You know what I mean? So as soon as they cut to the crowd in the middle of a 3 count, you know it's not going to be the 3 count, because Kevin Dunn knows what the fucking finish is. So it was kind of like the same thing here. They botched it again. Vince's reaction, I'm like, does he either not know Austin Theory's music, or did that scare him, or was it just instinct? Like, was it just his wrestling autopilot? You hear music, you react. But as soon as he did that, I'm like, uh-oh, somebody's coming. I was like, it might be The Rock or something. So Vince kind of spoiled that they're going to get some company. And then right after that, the glass shatters, and out comes the winner of last night's main event. Stone Cold Steve Austin comes to the ring. I thought Kevin Owens might actually follow him out there. Austin comes to the ring, and now we've got Austin and Austin. We had Gable and Gable in the opening match. Now we've got Austin and Austin. And Austin stuns Austin Theory, and he sells it like $1 million fucking bucks. And then it's Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince McMahon. Austin, of course, Vince falls for this shit every time. Austin teases that he wants to toast beers with Vince McMahon. Here you go. Like, how many times has idiotic Vince, Mr. Smart Businessman, fallen for this bullshit from Austin? And so Vince thinks they're going to toast some beers, and then Austin, of course, kicks him in the gut, goes for the stunner, but it goes horribly awry. Very, very awry. It's about as awry as you can get. And he kicks Vince, and he's all stumbling around. And Austin, he's trying to get him in the thing, and he can't reach him because Vince he's forward, he's backwards, he's hitting the ropes. Finally, Austin just kind of grabs him by the head, falls backwards, and Vince even bends the wrong way. It's the ugliest looking stone cold stunner cell, but it was also the most beautiful, the most glorious. My favorite stone cold stunner cell of all time. Made Mick Foley poop himself. I just watched the video on Twitter. It was amazing. And I wouldn't have it any other way because Vince doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. He's the most stumbling, bumbling, uncoordinated idiot that I've ever seen, in there. The way he moves around, he's always been that way. So even when he was young, he couldn't do anything. And now as an old man, he's going to take a stunner. You better practice this shit because it looks so bad. But I love that it did, because when you think back to Vince's very first stunner cell ever 25 years ago in 1997, that was arguably the worst stunner cell ever up until tonight. And he beat it on his last night. I think, in my personal opinion, and I hope Vince McMahon and Stone Cold Steve Austin agree, I don't want another stunner on Vince McMahon. Let's end it right here, because that's the way it should end. It should end with a botch, because that's how it started. Vince had the worst stunner cell, the way he flopped around like a fish, and we had to live with that shit for 25 years, and now Vince has topped himself once more. He's broken his own record, and now he officially has, yet again, the worst stunner cell of all time. The only person that is sold it worse than him is his own wife, Linda McMahon. But Vince is somebody that actually does have experience taking bumps. Linda does not. And it was awful, but I loved it. It was a good awful. It was one of those awfuls that don't make you mad or make you cringe or make you worry that somebody ruined a legacy. It's exactly what was supposed to happen. We're supposed to laugh at that because Vince is an idiot. So that was fun. Austin celebrates again with the crowd. After last night, one could argue that you didn't even need Austin out there, but I sure as shit ain't complaining. He didn't take any spotlight away from anybody. If anything, Vince did. Vince is the one that took Pat McAfee's victory away right after McAfee had one. So I don't think Austin was out there stealing anyone's spotlight. He did toast some beers with McAfee after that and then stunned him as well. So even McAfee ate a stunner. The crowd, who was loving him a minute ago, did not seem to give a shit. They cheered it anyway, and Austin celebrated, drank more beer, and crazy that he worked the main event last night and won, and here he is stunning people, drinking beer. So weird, so surreal to even see this going down, especially last night. The fact that he actually worked a match and won, and worked a good one. Dude was taking bumps. Dramatic finish, the way he stunned him and pinned him and sold it when it was over, and the crowd reaction, beautiful moment. Landed on his feet. The fact that Austin was able to come out of retirement and risk potentially damaging your legacy a bit and coming out on the other side of it doing anything but, I am so happy for him. Awesome. Awesome for him and awesome for us. Feel free to keep smashing that thumbs up button if you don't mind, and also do that subscribe thing too. Subscribing is fun. It's real fun. Try it. It's time for our main event. Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. Like I said at the intro and the opening of the podcast here, I got to admit, I was underwhelmed by this main event. I was hoping it would be better. I was hoping it would be a little bit more dramatic. I was hoping it would be a little bit more gritty. I was definitely hoping it would be a little bit more bloody. And based on the build, the fact that they were selling this match as the biggest WrestleMania match of all time, which it was not, and a championship unification, I was all about it. I loved the build. Like I said, I defended this to death because everybody can't seem to get past the fact that they've worked like 7 times. I'm like, or 8 times, whatever. I'm like, well, yeah, they worked 7 times in 7 years. I don't think that's too crazy. And I don't care how many times they've worked. I like this Brock Lesnar more than any other version of Brock Lesnar throughout Brock Lesnar's entire history of being in the WWE. This is my favorite. He is hysterical. Roman Reigns, same thing. I am so in love with what his character has become after dealing with so much shit and all the shit he had to deal with when he was basically John Cena 2.0. It really makes you wonder what would have happened if WWE wouldn't have been such pussies and pulled the trigger on a John Cena heel turn at WrestleMania 29, and he would have gotten a chance to do and have the type of character that Roman Reigns has. I think John Cena would have pulled that off very well. And I think they missed the opportunity to print a lot of money there. So the fact that they didn't make the same mistake with Roman, they actually turned him heel a couple years ago, and he's been on this incredible run as the tribal chief, as my cat glides into view here. Hey, buddy, just sit tight. The fact that he's able to be this dominant and he underwent this massive character change, and now he's a guy that many fans consider to be the strongest and best thing WWE's got going. For him to go from being the John Cena hated type to going to a guy that the fans are like, oh, this is good shit, is an incredible transformation. So I am loving who Roman is. I'm loving who Brock is. And I've never been more interested in these two as pro wrestling characters as I am right here in 2022. Back in 2015, when they wrestled at WrestleMania 31, how lame was that? Roman won the Rumble. The fans were already starting to get pissy because they could tell the WWE was going to push him. Luckily, Seth saved the day, and we didn't have to go and watch the typical, predictable Roman beating Brock finish at WrestleMania 31 like everybody thought we were going to get. And everybody was resistant to it. The silly little shit they did on Raw. Remember that belt tug of war? Do you remember the reaction to that? We were all like, really? I mean, this is a match that should be a pretty big deal, and this is the best you can do, just have these guys tug the belt. Look at what they're doing now. Brock Lesnar's getting in forklifts and trying to murder people in SUVs and shit. Man, they've really kicked it up a few notches. So I don't care what they've done in the past. I don't care how many times they've wrestled. I don't care if this is their 99th time. To me, this story still needs one more match. So I'll agree that we don't need it anymore. WrestleMania should be the end of it. If they wrestle at Backlash, then I'll be on y'all's team. Then I'll be like, yeah, this is too much. What the fuck? But in terms of what they've done so far, I think the story calls for one more match. I'm sorry that it has to be in the main event of WrestleMania, but these are the two biggest, strongest stars in the WWE, and that honestly is what your WrestleMania main event should be reserved for. WrestleMania should always be your two top guys battling, I think. So there's nothing wrong with that match being in the main event. I just basically had no issue with it, but fans can't get past that fact that they've wrestled too many times. And to me, that's just not important to me as a fan, because you can't always have every WrestleMania main event be the first time. There's going to be some rematches. And I kind of think it's cool that these two guys, given their dominance, are going to say, wow, we main evented 3 WrestleManias together. That's going to look great on their legacy years from now when these guys are retired. And all this hesitation or anger that fans might have now towards this match will probably look back fondly on years from now when we say, man, back in those days when Brock and Roman were on top, those guys ruled, and they main evented a lot of WrestleManias. One of these guys has got to induct the other into the Hall of Fame, you would think, possibly, maybe, when we get there one day. But having this run at WrestleManias, I think is kind of cool for their legacy and the legacies of both guys, because I'm a fan of both guys. So with all that being said, that's what I've been preaching for the past 2 months. And I've been saying this match is going to be good because this is the epitome of main event. This is what the word main event was meant for. It was specifically made for this type of match. Your two biggest guys, your immovable force and your, irresistible force and your immovable object, your Hogan Warrior type of clash. And yeah, even though this is the 7th clash, it's just different. So I was expecting these guys to tear it up. I was expecting just a fucking kick-ass match. I thought it was going to be bloody. I thought it was going to be brutal. I thought it was going to be stiff. I thought we were going to have near falls. And I thought it was going to be a ride. I thought there was even a possibility for maybe a swerve or a Paul Heyman issue in this match. Maybe turns on Roman again. Who knows? I thought they could even do that. And I thought there was even a slight possibility that we might get someone like The Rock coming out at the very end to do a little face-off with Roman Reigns, potentially setting up a match next year at WrestleMania, although we have all year to do that. Rock can come back at Survivor Series and set that up if he wants. So I thought between all those possibilities, we would see something. And honestly, we didn't. We just kind of saw a straight-up match here. A lot of what they were doing early on was mirroring the 31 match. Did you notice that? And it was very Brock heavy. He was dominant right from the word go and had Roman on the ropes. But instead of it just being an entire match of Roman getting his ass kicked, Roman actually does battle back. And despite Brock's early dominance, he's able to turn the tables a bit when Heyman helps out. So I think Brock knocks out Roman. He's outside of the ring or something, and he starts making his way towards Heyman, and Heyman is just shitting his pits. Please, he's such a pussy, my God. Or later on in the match when he's talking to Roman in the corner, oh, please, my tribal chief. Oh, please, my tribal chief. I'm like, my God, you have some Listerine after you gargle those balls? Man, oh, man. So Brock is backing up Heyman, and he's like, please, please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me. He's begging like Bobby Heenan, and that allows Roman to recover, come from behind, and spear Brock Lesnar through the barricade. You knew you were going to get a barricade spot in a match like this, of course. So that allows Roman to now gain the upper hand. He gets Brock back in the ring, hits Brock with a spear for a very close near fall. I think this was the near fall where Roman's hair got in Brock's face. Because if you ever want to know if it's the finish or not when you're watching wrestling, just watch their eyes. If he's watching the referee's count, he's kicking out. So Roman's hair goes over Brock's face, and I can see Brock trying to look, and he can't see because the hair's in his face. I'm like, oh shit, this might actually be the finish. But he kicked out. He gets hit with 2 Superman punches after that, winds up surviving, recovering, and ending up hitting Roman with like 4 German suplexes in a row, and then hits him with an F5. So that's 4 Germans followed by an F5, and Roman kicks out. Very close near fall, but a few of the fans in the front row thought that was it. I kind of did too. Right after that, we see the ref bump. Ref goes down. Roman hits Brock with a low blow. I know we mentioned the low blow possibilities on the predictions on Friday, that we mentioned that possibility. Low blow to Brock. Then Heyman hands Roman Reigns the belt, very reminiscent of Royal Rumble. And Reigns measures Brock, nails him with the championship belt, and then takes a page out of Bobby Lashley's book from earlier on against Omos by hitting Brock Lesnar with like a reverse spear from behind, but it looked like shit. They kind of just crumbled over. Brock didn't take it or sell it very well, but he was able to grab the rope on the 3 count. So he kind of hit the spear on the back. They crumble. I don't know what that noise was. They crumble to the ground. Roman goes for the pin, and Brock grabs the rope to save himself. After that, we get Roman going for another spear on Brock, which he hits, but Brock hangs on and locks him in the Kimura lock. And that's awesome because he's got him pretty far away from the ropes as well. And Roman is in up shit's creek at this point, and the commentary team's selling it. Crowd's going nuts. I'm like, oh, this is good. And I think Roman was just close enough. You could tell. I'm like, oh, he's going to make it to the ropes. And he did. So he gets to the ropes, but that's when he starts telling Heyman, my shoulder's gone. My shoulder's gone. And I'm like, oh. And so this is where I start getting excited. I'm like, oh, they're going to have Roman's going to lose his shoulder. So whatever he does here, he's going to have to, really fight back or maybe pop it back in place or whatever he was going to do. I think AJ had that issue. I don't know if it was legit or not. But even in kayfabe in the Edge match, he had to pop his shit back in. So Roman's like, oh, my arm's gone or whatever. So I'm like, okay, so this is going to be interesting if Roman is still going to win here, how he's going to recover from this and wind up and figuring out a way to beat Brock. I'm expecting to see the Usos. I'm expecting to see another nut shot. I'm expecting to see something like that. But instead, Roman just kind of winds up recovering and then out of nowhere is able to hit Brock with another spear. And that's all it took. 1, 2, 3. Beats Brock Lesnar, pins him clean right in the middle, 1 spear. I think it caught most of the fans off guard. A lot of people on Twitter were like, oh, okay, whatever. That wasn't what I expected. Paul Heyman sold it. Wow. He was trying to sell it like the Undertaker streak ending, but it didn't feel the same. That's why I think the finish should have been a little bit more dramatic than that. I don't need to see multiple spears or anything like that. It just kind of ended in a way that I thought for sure we'd get a kick out there and then the finish would come in a little bit more satisfying, I guess, of a way. I'm happy Roman won. I predicted him to win. That was the right call. He's the one I feel should have won. But I kind of wish that for the purposes of their story, for the purposes of their legacy and their run together that's been going on the better part of a decade now, this should have just had a better moment, I think. So Roman winning is a statement. He puts down Brock, puts him down clean for the most part. Belt shot, I know, but it was still a brawl. To me, I think as long as there's not too much interference, then I'm going to consider something clean, even though technically it wasn't. But beating Brock Lesnar was the point here. I just kind of wish it was a little bit more dramatic. And maybe that's a part of Brock. Maybe Brock just his heart isn't into it when he's got to go down or he's got to lose. I don't know. But in this situation, I kind of wish he would have gone down just a little bit harder than he did. So that's the end of him, at least for now. And that makes the most sense because if Brock would have won tonight, that's going to keep him around on TV for a lot longer. And he's already been on TV a lot since SummerSlam. And if Brock would have won tonight, we would have had to get a rematch. Did you think about that? We've already had Roman and Brock enough. If Brock won, you're not going to take the belt off of Roman Reigns after holding it for as many days as he has and then just not give him a rematch. He's going to be at the front of the line automatically just based on that. So if Brock beats him, that means we're going to have another match which I guess would be at Backlash, and that might be the tipping point for a lot of fans. That might push them over the edge. I was already at my edge. I did not think tonight's WrestleMania match was too many matches. Some fans did. I did not. But if they did another one, yeah, then that would have been too many. So I'm glad Roman won. He can move on to a different opponent. Brock can take a little bit of time off before resurfacing perhaps, or maybe he comes out on Raw and they write him off, because they got to write him off still, right? So does he come out and annihilate somebody? Does he beat up an official and then they suspend him again? They've done that with Brock, I think twice, maybe more than that, to get him off of TV. Because Brock isn't the type of guy that's going to take that loss from Roman and then just disappear into the woods. He's probably going to at least have something to say on his way out, or I'll see you down the line, or you haven't heard the last of me, or something. To retreat like that, I don't know. Maybe he will. I kind of think that there's one more statement coming. Maybe tomorrow, because there was belt shots, there was low blows involved. So maybe tomorrow during Roman's celebration, Brock comes to the ring, but maybe he's ambushed by the Usos and then they end him once and for all. And they carry him out, they put him through a table, or they carry him to the back and they do a car accident with Brock. Maybe they throw Brock in the back of the thing and then they smash it with something like Hogan did to The Rock all those years ago, something like that. And then Brock's just gone. And that gives him a reason to come back and find somebody to kill. But then it's right back to Roman and Brock again. So, how do you do that? Do you have somebody else take out Brock? That's what I would do. I would have Brock maybe not worry about the championship ceremony. Maybe he's got that on his mind initially. Maybe he's interviewed and he's, I'm gonna have something to say to Roman tonight or whatever. But before he can get to the ring, somebody attacks Brock, lays him out, writes him off TV, and that person is who Brock feuds with when he comes back in a few months, or maybe sets up a SummerSlam match. You could do that. So I don't know. What do you guys think the future of Brock Lesnar is? I think he'll be off TV at least for a little while. It's coming soon here. Let me scroll over here and get a couple super chats out of the way. One from Chaz. Good to see you, man. Appreciate you coming back. Thanks you for the $2. This WrestleMania was truly an end of an era. Yeah. I mean, you saw all the send-offs for Austin and Triple H and Undertaker, but man, we've seen the send-offs for these guys before, way back 10 years ago at WrestleMania 28. A lot of people thought we would never see Shawn, Triple H, and Undertaker wrestle again. A lot of them thought that was a double retirement. I never did. I said, when you have stars of that caliber, you don't retire them at the same time. They have separate ordeals, that sort of thing. And as it turns out, Triple H and Undertaker, that probably would have been a better retirement for both. Because neither guy truly got it the way they wanted. Undertaker had the boneyard thing, and then Triple H had the heart surgery. When you think about it, if you would have done it 10 years ago, that would have been a lasting memory that would still be with us to this day. But these guys have had moments at WrestleMania all the time. Like, I still think we could see Austin again at another WrestleMania, and maybe not for a match. I don't think he's going to have a match unless he really enjoyed what he did and feels like he could pump out a couple more. Kevin Owens has lost to Goldberg and Steve Austin. How crazy is that? Just random thought. So maybe he could do some more stuff. I don't know. But every WrestleMania, you tend to see a lot of legends get the focus. And so even though we saw all of this tonight, maybe Triple H just gave you a little bit of an idea of closure, because we know he's never coming back. But he's another guy that I certainly believe we could see in a segment at WrestleMania in the future, even in the ring or on the stage or something. I think Triple H will be in the ring to Motorhead at some point in the future. I don't think this will be the last time that ever happens. And honestly, I kind of don't think it will be the last time for The Undertaker either. Maybe it'll be the last time in his gear. Maybe every time we see him now, he'll be more Mark Calloway. But those Saudi Arabia shows, man, that's the only thing I worry about. I hope, the Saudi prince could be watching WrestleMania tonight and call Vince and say, hey, I want Stone Cold. Then what do? Pay him $10 million? Can you even blame him for doing it at that point, even though it's so fucking gross that they go there? No, you can't. Ay. Who's next? Off Leather Wings. Thank you for the $2. Logan Paul wore a $5 million Pokemon card as his entrance gear. That was around his neck, right? See, I don't know shit about Pokemon. But I understand card grading a little bit because I have baseball cards, and I saw that around him, but I had no idea. I don't even know I was already in my 20s by the time Pokemon was even created, so I don't get it. I don't know what it is. I just know it's little weird animations and these things. You can collect them and you can win money. And you had that app on the phone from a few years ago. We had a motherfucker fall off a cliff in Encinitas playing that game. And I'm like, man, guys, Jesus. So I don't know shit about Pokemon. But yeah, that's cool that he had a $5 million card. That fucker, man. That's some bling right there. That could be the new bling. Who cares? Who cares about diamonds? Get yourself I guess you can't wear an NFT, but get yourself some sort of memorabilia worth some shit. Interesting. I actually liked his gear. His gear looked like a lot of modern wrestling fans' gear. It looked like something Jay White or Kenny Omega would wear or something like that. I liked it. I thought he looked good in it. I hate to say that about him because I hate everything else about him. Oh, thank you for that, Robert Thomas. Paul also pushed the rope to Roman when he was breaking the Kimura lock. He was out there. He was right there. I guess I just didn't catch him pushing that. Thank you for that. Yeah, population, I agree with you. It ended suddenly. And I think that's all just in the execution. Not everything can be perfect. The way you lay out on a match on paper might not execute the way you have it in your head and with the audience. You have to know, how to do it and when to time it. I just think that they could have done more. Now, you got to remember too, back in the day, back at WrestleMania 34, everybody was bitching. Here, I thought fans were going to be happy because, again, they just assumed that Roman was going to go beat Brock and nobody wanted to see that. So when Brock won, I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm like, this proves to the fans that no, WWE does not just, gargle the balls of Roman Reigns. They will have him lose from time to time. And they have him lose in main events of WrestleMania, apparently. And Brock beat the shit out of him. And Roman was bleeding, buckets of blood coming out of his head in the ring, left laying in a pool of blood, basically, after Brock was done annihilating him. But the problem the fans had is that he kicked out of too many F5s. Roman kicked out of like 5 or 6 or whatever it was. And that was all I saw after the match. I'm like, is nobody happy that Brock Lesnar beat Roman and this didn't happen and John Cena 2.0 didn't get launched at WrestleMania 34? Are you guys really pissed about this? But they were. So if you're going to be mad that somebody kicked out of too many finishers, can you also be mad that somebody kicked out of too few? But I think it was just the way it came off, the way it was executed. It was underwhelming and it was sudden. And I feel like they should have gone another 2 minutes, set up for another big spot, another big dramatic moment where Roman, finally makes that statement. When you think about a match like Shawn and Flair, you get that, I'm sorry, I love you before the super kick. And then he kneels down and pins him. And the fans, it as the referee's counting 3. You just know it. And I think that's the type of feeling we should have had. I didn't want a sudden, oh shit, look at that. I wanted Roman just to smash Brock. And when he covered him, every person in the audience knew that referee's hand was coming down 3 times. And so when it kind of ended quickly like that, you're like, oh, okay. That was my heart wanted more. So we didn't get that, and I'll admit it. And I was really looking forward to this main event way more than most people. Went to bat for the main event, was hoping these guys wouldn't let me down, and they kind of did a little bit, to be honest. But I'm still a huge Roman mark. Love him and want him to continue to roll. And I'm old school, Bruno was champion when I was born, and he held the belt for like 8 years. So I never thought we would have, Superstar Billy Graham was champion when I was born. He beat Bruno right before I was born. He beat Bruno just a couple months before I was born. And back then, guys held the title for so long. Bruno did, Pedro did, Backlund did, and then Hogan came around and held it for like 4 years. And since Hogan, we haven't had any sort of long runs other than Diesel, and AJ Styles have had a year run in here, and Cena did. But, you haven't had anybody with a crazy run. And Roman is now on the verge of, coming up on, what is it now, 2 years or 3 years? 2 years as Universal Champion, right? That's just crazy to me. He could go 3. I'd be perfectly fine with Roman making it all the way until next year's WrestleMania. But if he's going to face Rock, I don't want that match to be for the championship at all. I think Rock and Roman should just happen. So that could be something to get Roman back on the map. You could have him hold the title all the way through this year and then maybe drop it to somebody. But the way he gets back, on his feet is beating The Rock at WrestleMania in a one-on-one match with no championship, but who beats Roman? And is Roman going to be the champion in WWE or one of the champions in WWE? What the hell are they going to do tomorrow, guys? So all that depends on it. Now, if we're going to go back to having two titles again and Roman stays on SmackDown, then I'd like to see Kevin Owens or Seth Rollins find a way to challenge him and beat him. even though neither one of them are currently on the brand. Might not even matter if they end the brand split. But that would be my pick, my candidate. I think, or even Cody. But I think at some point Seth Rollins is going to be rewarded for a lot of the jobs he's been doing lately. And he sold his ass off and carried the match with Cody last night. He really did. And he deserves a ton of credit for doing the work that he put in. I think he'll get rewarded for that. And now that Seth has found his niche, again, like Roman, like Brock, Seth has had runs on top before, but I've never felt this way about him, before. Like, Seth is entertaining as hell. I'm loving what he's doing. I liked him when he was babyface world champion Seth, but I couldn't really get into him as a personality. I liked his work, just thought he was a tremendous worker, still is. Might be overall pound for pound, even though I don't have favorite wrestlers anymore. My favorite guy in WWE, just really like to watch him work. So now the fact that he's adding a character to that's actually good and so goofy and so obnoxious, but obnoxious in a good way, to where when he was a babyface, it was tough. He was having trouble connecting, with the audience. He really was. He got mild reactions from the babyface audience. Oh, Jesus, my cat just almost fell off that. You all right, buddy? You ever cat ever lose balance? Like he's laying on the thing and he just kind of slips over. But, Seth really never connected with the audience, even as a babyface. He was just kind of got lukewarm reactions unless he was returning or beating Brock Lesnar or something like that in some big moment. Fans weren't like going nuts for him, but he is now starting to get the appreciation from the audience to show that he really does have a fun personality. And he's been great. So he is on my list of somebody that I think could be the guy to take the belt or belts off of Roman Reigns one day, unless they want to have Roman hold on to the title for another year and then you book him against Braun Breaker or something and you do that. Maybe, I don't know, but shit. Who's to stand in his way at this point? And what are we going to see tomorrow? What is he going to say? What's the future of the championship? Are we getting a new title? You tell me. Cinder, I agree with you. It was a great comedy relief. That was a fun comedy match. Plus, it was entertaining, and it wasn't too stupid. It was stupid, but not too stupid. It was stupid in a good way, just like the Vince Stunner Cell was bad and horrific, but bad and horrific in a good way. You can't take wrestling too seriously. If you don't, it's fun. I promise it's fun. I was cracking up most of the night. Even though I agree that tonight's WrestleMania is not as good as last night's, I was having the time of my life sitting here, laughing at shit, goofing on shit, tweeting, eating edibles, having a great time. So to me, just have fun. That's my advice. Just have fun with wrestling. Don't take it so damn seriously, and certainly don't argue with each other about stupid shit that you don't know what you're even saying or what you're talking about anyway. And that's what's sad after the Cody stuff yesterday, just seeing some of the behavior of the fans and stuff. I'm like, man, how can people be so negative? Cody's own pals in AEW were wishing him well and stuff. And I just found it gross that, so many fans take all this shit so personally. And now you got people that hate Cody and they feel betrayed by Cody for Cody making a personal decision, something that he has every right to fucking make. In judging him and taking it so personally and being so angry about something that doesn't really matter. I just thought the very idea of Cody coming into WWE full on AEW persona presentation all the way down to the very smallest detail is something that's so incredibly rare in the business and you never see. And we've seen it twice in just a few weeks because Jeff Hardy jumped over to AEW and was able to do the same thing. Same name, same look, same theme music, same everything. And we've literally never been able to see that before. So the fact that Cody does it and goes the other way was just surreal, and I like that stuff. I appreciate that stuff. And I just wish other fans would too. Because, man, back in the day when guys would jump ship, I would get mad and everything, but I still found it to be very cool. I was bummed when Diesel and Kevin, or when Razor and Diesel left and Scott Hall and Kevin Nash turned up in WCW. As much as I hated the WWE lost two of my favorite characters, it was interesting as shit to see what they were doing in WCW. That NWO stuff changed the business. So defections are fun. Watching Luger go to WCW, watching Rude be on Raw and Nitro on the same night. Stuff like that was amazing. X-Pac's return after WrestleMania 14. Calling out Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan. That stuff was great. Same fans, you would have put them in that era. They would have been, oh, X-Pac, I like him, but I just wish you wouldn't have had to say anything bad about WCW. I'm like, shut up. That's the fun. That's where the fun is. Have some fun. been watching the Young Bucks bio. First, they were kind of made a joke about Cody going to WWE, saying, I thought we were going to do All In too. But then when Cody tweeted something like wrestling is a love story or whatever, they changed their bio to, I guess just a come from nothing kids from Southern California who make it big and change the business wasn't romantic enough for you or something like that. So there's probably some ill feelings, some talent, maybe isn't too happy with Cody or whatever. But for the most part, everybody's, these people are colleagues. These are peers of Cody, and they all do the same thing, and they all, respect each other. So I liked to see most of the responses to Cody. Seemed like all the wrestlers were the ones behaving themselves. It was the fans that were idiots over that. So don't be an idiot. Just sit back and enjoy it, because, don't make assumptions about what people are doing with their lives or what they're getting in their contracts or what Tony Khan is doing or what Vince McMahon is doing. You don't know anything. You work at the bank. Shut up. So stay out of it, type of thing. I just thought the crowd, because here's the thing, full disclosure. I like AEW's product right now far more than WWE's. They give me more of what I'm looking for as a wrestling fan. They have much better kind of storyline cohesion. They treat their television shows like an actual thing, like a big deal. They're not copy and pasting the same segments from last week and just doing it with different pieces where you just get the same type of redundant stuff. Even on WWE, you can tell when a commercial is coming. You can tell by the way the commentary team is setting it up. It's just so routine. They do the same thing every week, and you're starting to program your own brain that way, where you can probably book out a whole TV match in your damn head or a TV show in your head with WWE, and you know exactly the type of order they normally do stuff, the type of segments they have, and these type of just basic templates that they use over and over and over and over again, and nothing is done with any real love or emotion or feeling or anything. So AEW comes along and they're giving us a lot more of that. Are they perfect? No. Do they need to work on some things? Yes. But overall, AEW, as a pro wrestling fan of 40 plus years, I think I've earned this right to make this decision. If I have to choose which one is entertaining me more, I choose AEW. But that doesn't mean WWE can't have a good night. They had a great night last night. Tonight wasn't great, but wasn't horrible either. And overall, I think WWE made a big statement with WrestleMania 38. I think overall it's going to be looked at as a pretty decent WrestleMania, all things considered. And we got returns, we got nostalgia, we got to see Stone Cold work a match again. We're probably going to get a lot of things happen tomorrow night on Raw, along with some returns, maybe Bayley, maybe Asuka, somebody else that might be on the shelf coming back. Get the future of the world title, that kind of thing. And WWE can definitely have their moments. I want them to have their moments. Like I said, I've been excited as hell for Cody to be there, and I don't even know why. I just want to see it. I think it's going to be fun. So that being said, even though I prefer AEW right now, that could change. AEW could shit the bed in a couple of years, and WWE will maybe bounce back. So who knows where I'll lie in a couple of years from now. But at least in right now, April 3rd, 2022, AEW is my jam. I prefer their stuff over WWE stuff. But I have to say, all of those AEW fans who maybe love AEW, let's just say a little too much, y'all embarrassed yourselves this weekend. I hate to break it to you, man. I love that. I love AEW as much as you do. I'm glad that they exist. I'm glad that North America has two competing wrestling companies that are on cable. That's just a win-win for the fans. I'm not going to resist that just because I just love arguing with people I don't even know or will never meet. I don't give a shit about that anymore. I just want to see, awesome wrestling, and competition really helps the business. This Cody return would not have been as big without AEW. You know what I mean? So I'm all for AEW and AEW's success, but the way a lot of those fans behaved about Cody, the way they would shit on posts that was wishing Cody well from his peers, and he betrayed you, and how can you say nice things about him, and just the ridiculous negative opinions that were coming out of people's mouths was just mind-blowing to me. I'm like, how can you feel that way? How can you talk so confidently about something that you don't know shit about? And I don't know what it is about wrestling Twitter that it seems like the less you know about something, the more you talk about it like you do. And they just know not what they say. And they say the most ridiculously negative, hateful things about something, about some stupid war that they've really made up in their own head. So for the WWE, or for the AEW haters now, I meant to say AEW or WWE haters earlier. But anyway, for the people who can't stand AEW and give AEW all kinds of shit every chance they get, don't laugh at that and think you're any better, because you're not. And trust me, wait until Wednesday when Samoa Joe comes out. It'll be their turn to act like a fucking moron. So basically, for the AEW fans, the ones that, maybe go a little bit too overboard with their love for the company, the ones that other fans consider to be a cult person or something like that, they're the ones that I think, should have or acted like a little bit assholish this weekend. And you'll see it on the other side. You do. They're equally as fucking bad. It's just, I don't think there's any reason to be angry at Cody. I don't think there's any reason to direct anger at him or his wife or anything like that, or, throw shade at him for betraying. There's no betrayal. This is life. This is business. These are decisions that, successful people have to make. Unfortunately, you or I are probably never going to have to be faced with these type of decisions. But if we are, you certainly wouldn't want a whole bunch of people that don't know your situation and don't even know you at all, telling you what's right and wrong for your life and your career. So I think a lot of those fans took it too far. And if you love AEW and you hate WWE and just despise everything they do, you look like a fool when you are complaining about Cody and trashing him and saying that he's betraying AEW, because that's not what this is about. His own friends in AEW were happy to see, most of them anyway, were happy to see him show up at WrestleMania. It was important to him. He was emotional in the ring. He was saluting his father. This is a place where Cody wants to be. So don't shit on him for that. And it's going to go the other direction. AEW's picked up a lot of talent as well, but now the older they get, the more you're going to see talent going both ways. And this is a major pickup for WWE. So I think we should enjoy big defections like this and enjoy the history of them and how historical they're going to turn out to be, rather than just be assholes and, start talking crazy on social media. So I saw a lot of that and I was just amazed, how people can take stuff that seriously and get that mad over a wrestling show, over Cody. Cody's dead to these people now. I don't know why. I wish him well. Hopefully he'll do great things. Do we got super chats to answer? I think we do. At least one. I saw from Michael Kumo. It's good to see you, man. Welcome back. I'm glad you're here. Appreciate the $5. Someone gets thrown out the ring and announcers start talking louder, then ends in dialogue on a question, then cut to commercial. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, you can feel it. You're like, here comes commercial. Sometimes I even get up out of my chair and go to the bathroom or whatever I'm going to do before they officially go to commercial, just because I know what's coming. So you know what I'm talking about there. When you're watching WWE programming, it just, you just start going along with it. Your brain just kind of syncs up with their format, and it's scary. They're probably secretly programming all of us. There's probably some hidden codes in SmackDown that's infiltrating our brains right now. Yikes. Zane G, 10 more bucks from you, man. Appreciate that. Yo, Mike Work, man. I'm adding money in your pocket with my Mania Super Checks. Get ready for the Veer debut on Raw. Catch you tomorrow night for Raw. Thank you, Zane. I'm sure you got to get out of here. Some of you might have to as well, because it's Sunday night. You might got to work in the morning. And if you're on the East Coast, it is 2:11 in the morning. So we need to think about getting out of here now. But we will be back tomorrow night for Raw. So make sure you're here. See if there's any other questions in here that are good. Don't know about Ciampa yet either. Good question, Randy. So tomorrow night we might see a Bayley return, an Asuka return, or some NXT call-ups. Braun Breaker, who lost to Dolph Ziggler, could be called up. Maybe even Ciampa. He had the big send-off. He lost to Tony Mamaluke or whatever the fuck, and Triple H came out and hugged him and gave him a send-off. But the way it was presented made you wonder if he's leaving WWE altogether. I don't know. As far as I know, he was still under contract. But I have a feeling it's going to be a main roster call-up for him. Hopefully we'll see him tomorrow, but we could also see him on SmackDown. I don't know where Ciampa would land, and I don't know where he'd be better, best off. I guess he'd probably be better on Raw, but hell, man, I don't know. Wherever he lands, I'm not too optimistic about it. Yeah, it's not WWE that doesn't mind the competition. It's the fans. Well, the fans need to understand that competition makes everything better. And WWE probably even is a little secretly happy that they do have some of it, especially if they know that really at the end of the day, they're not a real threat. But like I said, there's a lot of money potentially behind AEW if they really want to, tap everything they've got. There's a lot of money behind them. They're not going to have the problems and the issues that TNA had with, money and finances and ownership and stuff like that. They've got a much more refined, machine there that can handle stuff. So that's good. That's what we need. That's the only thing that's going to ever have a chance to compete with WWE. You got to have some stability in your company, and the Khans are going to be something that they're going to own that. Tony Khan is a guy that's very hands-on, and it's not going to be passed around from different media companies like you see with TNA, like you saw with Ring of Honor and the change of ownership constantly, that every time that happened, it drastically changed the, direction of the company. And it was a lot of start and stop and a lot of changes. And it was just never really a machine that was running. And AEW is a machine that was, even WCW wasn't like that. AEW is much more stable in that way. Even WCW, when Ted Turner bought it, but then there was mergers and people took over and there's different people in charge that oversaw WCW that wanted to make changes, who knew nothing about wrestling and wound up damaging a lot. So these are things, at least right now, that aren't existing in AEW and probably won't, as long as Tony Khan is going to be the full-blown owner of this thing. So that gives AEW a really big leg up on all the other potential Vince competitors, because nobody's really been able to truly compete because they just haven't been able to sustain it financially. And that's what I said all along. It's going to take a Mark Cuban. It's going to take somebody like that who's just got more money than you even know what to do with, and could literally spare $1 million or $1 billion if they had to, and could still have $1 billion left over. You find somebody like that, then yeah, they could be unstoppable if they're just willing to pay whatever. That's a lot of what got WCW so much attention when they had a huge checkbook. They had more money to pay because they were owned by, somebody with a lot more money than Vince, and were able to throw a lot of money at his stars to get them. So if it becomes, now that you have two financially stable companies, that makes contract negotiations more interesting than ever when you have two companies that can essentially pay the same thing. It's like the Yankees competing for talent with the Lakers. Holy shit, who's going to win that? So it's going to be fun finding out when we get more defections and contract negotiations down the road. Io Shirai, I would love to see go to the main roster. What's taking them so long with her? She was in the multi-woman match on Saturday, lost. She's literally done everything she needs to do in NXT. She's way overdue for a main roster run. So yeah, hopefully Io Shirai as well. Beef up that women's division a little bit with maybe Io. It looks like Dakota and Raquel are sticking around because they're the tag team champions now down there. So you could bring up Io Shirai and Lacey Evans as well. Lacey Evans has had her baby, so she's on the road back apparently. Not sure what kind of shape she's in or if she's ready to come back yet, but she's somebody else you could see. Oh, yeah, Mike Witt, smart. Cody should have told Seth last night, Mox says hi. Maybe he'll tell him that on Raw tomorrow. I think that tomorrow night, Cody should come out and spill his guts and talk about why he left, where he's been, what he's been doing, that sort of thing. And what his intentions are. I think that is his plan. I'm just curious if he's going to open the show or not, or if it's going to be Roman. I guess it's probably got to be Roman. I think Roman's got to open the show tomorrow. But if he doesn't, for some reason, and they save Roman for the main event, Roman's big celebration, Roman's either going to open or close. I can't see Roman coming out in the middle. So he'll either open the show or he will close the show in the main event, and maybe that's where we will get whatever they're doing with the title, if we're going to get an unveiling or if we're going to get Roman's next opponent. That could be saved for the main event, and then Cody could open the show. That could be good. I mean, if Cody does open, that would be, the post-Mania Raw crowd is usually pretty jacked. So they will pop big for his entrance if he opens the show and then he cuts a promo. They'll probably chant "Welcome back, Cody" a lot. He'll get that moment. He'll get to soak that in. So I could totally see Cody opening up the show and Roman being the main event segment. So we'll see. Unless WWE could have already announced this, for all we know. It's very possible. We might already know this. Excuse me. Let me just cruise down here to their page. See if they have anything announced. No, it doesn't look like they got anything announced for Monday Night Raw yet. Good picture of Roman with the 2 titles backstage. I might have to use that as my thumbnail, my new one, my updated one. I just threw one together for this. Wow. Yeah, nothing yet. Good stuff, though. Roman looks great with those titles. Yeah, we'll see. I guess we're getting WrestleMania Backlash. Is that really what we're going to get? So we'll see what they do with Roman. I certainly don't think we're going to get another Brock match. We better not. So hopefully he'll move on to somebody else. And shit, it might be Cody, man. I don't know. I have no idea. Oh, God. Conor McGregor did tweet tonight to WWE. So they're talking Conor and Brock at SummerSlam. What? That's going to be a worked match, right? Can it please be real? I think Brock would fucking kill him. Oh, man. Can it please be an MMA for real match? Maybe Drew versus Roman. Maybe, McIntyre versus Roman. We could get that again. I don't feel like Drew is as strong as he was the first time they faced each other. And you got to start thinking now at some point, who's going to be the one to dethrone Roman. Now that he's held the title for so long, he's seemingly unstoppable. Who does stop him? Somebody has to stop him. I hope it's not underwhelming like it was with Bruno. They had to kind of do a transitional deal with Ivan Koloff to move his title run over. But I think that Roman losing when that happens could be huge. Humongous. WrestleMania Backlash, May 8th. Thank you. Brock's going to go to the 24/7 title now. Is he going to be one of the guys running around? Maybe he'll take Dana Brooke away from Reginald. Maybe he'll take Dana Brooke and Tamina away from Reginald and Tozawa, and he'll marry them both. Forget the double wedding. It's one wedding. It's Brock and my 2 girls. With the cowboy hat. Cowboy hat will be on. Has to be. Yeah, it could be Braun Breaker too. Who knows? But essentially, you'd think that no matter who Roman faces now, that's going to be a lesser opponent than Brock Lesnar, right? Because who's higher than Brock? For once, I feel like tomorrow night's post-Mania Raw actually looks good. The last few have sucked, man. They've given us garbage, and they haven't treated them like they used to treat them. So we have enough unanswered questions, I think, going into tomorrow that there's potential. And there's potential for the show to really, really be good based on what they did in the last couple of nights and some of the questions and follow-up they can do moving forward. So now it's on them. If they manage to fuck this up, then there might not be any hope, because I think there's enough material to have a really fun Monday Night Raw tomorrow night. If you put some thought into it and some care into it, and if you put as much thought and care into your storylines as you do your WrestleMania set, there might be no stopping WWE. So we'll see what they do tomorrow night. But I'm getting tired. I need to get out of here. I hate to strand 400 or so people in the chat, but we got to bail because it's been a long weekend and there's more to come. So join us tomorrow night after Raw. We will be here one more time to discuss the fallout from WrestleMania, discuss whatever happens tomorrow night on Raw, who we see come back, what Roman does, what Cody says. Do we see any NXT call-ups? Do we see any injured talent return? Do we see any major surprises, maybe even a title change? And what, for the love of God, is the true future of the WWE and Universal titles? We still really honestly don't know. So if we're going to get a new belt unveiling, hopefully that'll take place tomorrow, and we can maybe move on to a new chapter in WWE. Maybe that's what this WrestleMania was all about, saying goodbye to the past while moving on to the future. Could be. We'll find out. Thank you again, guys, for being here. And those of you who've been with us for the last 3 nights, we were here on Friday night after the Hall of Fame for a good, fun audience. We were here last night as well. And then many of you joined tonight. I appreciate you hanging out all weekend with me. It's been 3 really fun streams and 1 more to go tomorrow night after Raw. So I will join you immediately following Raw, and hopefully we will have a lot to talk about. So you guys take care, get some rest, and I'll catch you tomorrow night.